drink it. You know, just stir it and drink it, and oh man, that is good. Especially that chocolate milk. It's like homemade hot chocolate. Oh yeah. Heat it up, stir it. C3 CDU.
I'll stick to Wild Turkey and Coke.
Yeah, skip the Coke. Just ice.
That or Jack Daniels or the Devil's Cut. You talk about something good.
I'm sorry, BJ. Knob Creek on the rocks, or Woodford on the rocks. Can't beat that. AG 5 p.m.
AF5TX. Nah, I'm a redneck. I gotta drink something that's gonna put hair on your chest. Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa.
It's okay on your chest. I can't drink that stuff. Ew. I'll clean my engine with it.
Knob Creek.
Melissa Double Woody, what'd you say?
It's repeating.
I don't know, Melissa. If you got a taste for it, you'd enjoy it.
No, it would kill me. No, it would kill me.
You know, every night before you go to bed, if you take you a little swig of Wild Turkey or Jack Daniels, you'll sleep like a baby.
Oh, no. I'll just take a melatonin. That's good enough for me.
Well, you know what they say, you're supposed to take natural stuff for painkiller. I take natural stuff for painkiller, Jack Daniels and Wild Turkey.
The doctor tried to get me to take some painkillers once. I said the only painkiller I take is vodka or whiskey.
And what was his reply?
He scowled at me. And then I said, you know what? I'm doing it anyway. I passed all the physical tests. I had the stress test, the echocardiogram, the whole 9 yards. At 60 years old, they said I was completely clean. I didn't need any drugs. I didn't need anything. My valves were clear, my pipes were clear, and so he left me alone after that. And that's my secret: whiskey and vodka as painkillers.
You know what? My grandfather walked in the doctor's office at the age of 60, and they had him on so much blood medicine and so much heart medicine and you name it, and the doctor gave him another prescription. Let me reset. And he went home, and he looked at it, and he grabbed the trash can, and on the first shelf of where the plates were was all his medicine. Raked it all up in the trash can. And let me reset. And the interesting part was he lived till he was 97 years old. And somebody asked me why did he do all of that? And I said he took a shot of Jack Daniels in the morning and a shot at night, and he died of natural causes.
These guys get paid to give you prescriptions. I'm convinced of it. I keep telling the doctor I'm not taking his snake oil. I'll just drink mine. And I've been fine. And they keep testing me, and I keep coming up fine. And I'm just going to keep going with my own plan.
Well, I'm half Comanche. So when I go on the warpath, it's pretty bad. especially when I get liquored up on fire water. And I think that went over Melissa's head.
And I want to hear what happened.
Can't you guys think of something better to talk about than how great it is to get drunk at W5AAN? Good evening, Melissa.
I didn't say anything about getting drunk, and I don't think BJ did either. I'm just saying. Alcohol has a curative effect in taken in moderation, and I don't need any other medication. HE 5 p.m.
Hi, Ginger. I have the best neighbors, Ginger and Dawn. Cat 5GH.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't say anything about getting loaded or getting drunk. I just said what was good for you.
It helps to liberate my mind. HE 5 p.m.
NAF5TX.
I'll stick with my Bible and my non-alcoholic drinks. KC3CDU.
Amen, brother.
I would like to advise everyone, with or without alcohol, it doesn't matter, to please check the vegetable drawer of your refrigerator often, because I just discovered something I didn't know existed. A moldy carrot. Yuck. Yeah, don't just buy new vegetables, remember to throw out the old ones regularly. NT5TM.
I have quite a few science experiments going in my refrigerator, and yes, Cat 5GH. We gotta clear the frequency, y'all. Cat 5GH. It's gonna be Skynet.
Yes, it is, and only 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Well, Tony, this doesn't have anything to do with your moldy vegetable bin, but I've had a sudden appointment come up, and I don't think that Don and I are going to come over to have that salad that you were offering us. W5AAN.
I'd love to offer salad. I don't remember when I said that, and I'm not sure when we can do it, but when we can do it safely, that would be awesome. Okay, well, I will have to check your email. I don't know what salad you're talking about. I'm too sleepy. No. But yeah, we have several good salads around here, and we'd be happy to share. NT5TM.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta testing. Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta, am I included in the net?
the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that there will be a net. Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta, I'll be clear.
This is KF5CDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a TL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, Consolation of the Week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in, so this time I'll turn the net to my alternate net control, KE5ICX Tom, if you will do the check-in honors, please.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and this is KE5ICX. My name's Tom, Tango Oscar Mike. I'll be your alternate net control and taking all check-ins tonight. So we'll go ahead and start with our first round, which is low-power short-time check-ins. If you'd like to join us in that capacity, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and your location, please, and let me know if you're low-power or short-time. Please come down.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf, Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power, 3 watts.
Just one, W5GUS Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power, 4 watts. Did you say 4 watts? I think you did. Maybe you said 3 watts. I don't know. I'm 4 watts. But, yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Low power, short time. Please come down.
AG5 PM. I'm only running 5 watts. Is that low power or high power? Not sure. I'm 30 miles from Dallas.
Kilo India 5, Golf Romeo Hood. I turned it down to 5 watts. It won't go any lower. I'm in northeast Dallas, so a lot closer. KF508.
Oh, man, you guys. All right, I got KG 5PM. That's Rich. I think he's in, well, he says he's 30 miles out with 5 watts. All right, well, it's low power, but never mind. KF5GRH, that's Melissa in Northeast Dallas. Also low power. She dialed down to 5 watts and no less. Okay, no squeaks of power. All right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go ahead and take regular check-ins as opposed to the irregular check-ins I just took. So if you please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Here we go. November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving. November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony, next to a plate of grated carrots.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, on in Capel over a gorgeous pizza.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Daniel Weber.
This is KF5 JHA Chaz in Mesquite.
All right, let me go ahead and acknowledge those folks. We're at Lucky 13, so I got N5BB, Bill in Irving, NT5TM, Tony in with Grace Carrots somewhere in Dallas, WB50ZL, Miss Brenda DeSoto, K5JDW, John in his winter home over in Capel, KF5TSK, Burrow in Dallas. You better show up for Afterglow or you're, never mind. AA5AH, Robert Richardson, KG5BZWJ, near Weatherford, but not in Weatherford. I understand there's a curfew. KF5JJ, Chaz in Mesquite. I'll take additional over-air check-ins. Please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill in Farmers Branch. All knobs to 11.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
This is Kilo 8 Alpha Mike Hotel, Aaron to North Dallas.
All right, I think 5 check-ins, but I only got 3 of them. So let me tell you who I got. I got KF5ZBL, that's Mr. Bill in Farmers Branch, KB9SOK, Shaun of the Dead in Fort Worth, and K8AMH, Aaron in North Dallas. There were 2 I got, no audio at all, and all static on the second one. I suspect they're different people. I'll take additional check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Delta Echo Bravo, James Frank.
November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen.
Kilo Bravo 5, Delta Mike Charlie, Brian in Roanoke.
All right, I may have 3 in there. I've got, I think this is right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Delta Sierra Bravo, J. Am I even close on your call sign? I think it's J. Go ahead. You had a lot of noise. All right, you dropped out again, but I got Kilo Foxtrot 5, and then the rest of your call. Go ahead and give me your call twice and your name, please. All right, I think I lost you. I think it's K5DSB. That's Jay somewhere out in the ether. I'll put a asterisk by your name and then double check on you. N5WOI, William and Allen. KV5, Delta Mike Charlie. That's Brian and Roanoke. One more round over air. Anyone else over air would like to join us with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from?
Hello, Corky. This is Kilo Bravo 3 Romeo, Whiskey Tango. I'm in Irving, Texas. Name is Jerry.
All right, you went so fast. I got you, Jerry, but can you give me your call a little more slowly, please? I'm slow.
My bad. Kilo Bravo 3 Romeo, Whiskey Tango. Irving.
Very good. Kilo Bravo 3, Romeo Whiskey Tango, Jerry over in Dallas. Thank you very much for checking in. I am going to move over to Echolink. If you'd like to join us on Echolink, please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. I will give you extra time.
Kilo Charlie 3, Charlie Delta Uniform, Kilo Charlie 3, Charlie Delta Uniform. The name is Timothy. Location is Westmoreland County, New Florence, Pennsylvania, where it is a high of 15 degrees. AC3 CDU, traffic for the net.
Control. This is Whiskey 0, Mike Bravo Charlie, Shane.
And that's me, Shane. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
WD5, CPX, Whiskey Delta 5, Baker Papa X-ray, 12 points.
All right, very good. Some new people and some favorites. Not to say the new people aren't favorites, they could be. But let's see here. I've got Kilo Charlie 3, Charlie Delta Uniform. That's Timothy, and he is in Clearnode, I think West Virginia, he said. Welcome aboard. We have W0MBC. That would be Shane and Bethany. Merry Christmas, Bethany, over in Blue Springs. And I got WD5 Bravo Papa X-Ray, that's Bobby, over in Wills Point, Texas. Any additional
National Echolink check-ins, please come out.
This is KC3CDU. I've got to correct you real quick. I'm in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania. The clear node is my all-star node, which I'm talking like right now. Back to net, KC3CDU.
All right, Timothy, thank you. You're in Pennsylvania somewhere. Thank you for checking in. I hope you enjoy the net, and welcome. All right, I will open it up to anybody, anywhere, any place, all modes, any mode, whatever you want. Clear mode, for that matter. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from. Any mode. All right, not bad. We had 23 check-ins so far, so I'm going to send it back to Net Control. KF5PDS. Miss Billy, it's back to you. 23 check-ins so far from KE5ICX.
And Tom, thank you so much. Copy that 23 check-ins so far. Welcome, everybody, to Skynet. All right, we're going to get started with general announcements. So do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM, Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Billy. I'd like to remind everyone that this is not the last DARC net of the evening. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion coming up on this repeater at 10:30 tonight. We'll be talking about the Stepford Wives, the eerie Ira Levin novel. Oh, wait, no, we're talking about the 1975 movie version of the eerie Ira Levin novel. We're talking about interesting, frightening stuff right here tonight at 10:30 p.m. Also, this Monday at 7. We have the GeekNet. I'm not sure what we're going to be geeking out about, but it kind of doesn't matter because it could be something you have in mind, not me. The GeekNet is where we talk about anything that we get excited and knowledgeable about. It doesn't have to be ham radio related. It could be butterflies, stamp collecting, unusual garden plants, strange uses of potatoes, or the best way to build a 222 megahertz antenna. It almost doesn't matter as long as you think it's awesome. That's right here this Monday at 7 p.m. Thank you for listening, NT5TM.
Great, thank you for those announcements, Tony. I'm looking forward to GeekNet on Monday night. Does anybody else have any announcements? If so, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing anything, so I'm going to go ahead with a few announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.net.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tuesdays. Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. The Dallas AMSAT net Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater at 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts several nets on Monday nights. The first Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's net. If you want to share some recipes or just come and listen and gather recipes, this is a great place to do that. If you have a question about food, anecdote, food recipe that you want to share, join us for Ham Fixin's net. The second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. The third Monday of the month is the second helping of Ham Fixin's net. And as Tony mentioned, the fourth Monday of the month is GeekNet. If this Monday, then it's a surprise net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. On Tuesdays, AMSAT East at 8 p.m. features question and answer, info, and news for amateur satellites. On Fridays, there's CERT simulation with CERT City, 7:30 p.m. Emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday at CERT City. All are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Nets, with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m., and of course Skynet at 9 p.m., and as Tony mentioned, we'll have a little bit more information about the Afterglow movie net that follows Skynet at 10:30. The first and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club has a meeting on the air. There's also a daily lunch, 12 noon, Monday through Friday. There's always a survey question. Eat lunch with us. And the ARRL net, National Traffic System Training net, is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as Tony mentioned, following Skynet at 10:30 is the Afterglow movie net. If you're new to the way it works is a movie is chosen to watch during the week, and then on the following Saturday on the Afterglow movie net, we discuss the movie. We talk about plot, characterization, special effects, music, you name it. We'll talk about it on the movie. And so as Tony mentioned, tonight's movie is the 1975 version of the Stepford Wives. So at this time, I'm going to turn to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us tonight's Afterglow info.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and this is KE5ICX. My name's Tom, and here's tonight's Afterglow information. Joanna looked across the table, and the four women stared back. It appeared they weren't fooling around, and Joanna knew her goose was cooked if she didn't politely comply. Carol began. As you know, Tupperware is the foundational force for mankind. Without it, we would starve, or at the very least, would have to make meals for our glorious husbands every day. Joanna was from New York, and this was Fairfield County, Connecticut, a rural area with no county government. It was the men who ran everything. They really don't have a county government. I looked it up. So, Joanna, how many tons of Tupperware would you like to buy today? Enough to save the lives of your family, preserve civilization, and keep that handsome husband happy? A beep went off in the kitchen. Her goose was cooked. Join us for one of the more unusual outings, the Stepford Wives from 1975. No, not the book, not the Ira 11 book, but the movie, tonight at 10:30 p.m. This is KE5ICX, back to net control.
Tom, and you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. This is KF5CDS. Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next is the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas event. So at this time, if anyone on frequency would like to give us information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, Please come now with your call sign.
KF5JHA.
KF5JHA, Chaz, give us some information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, if you please.
Good evening, everyone. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be on January the 22nd, 2021. I hope it's a better year than this year has been. Oh, it's going to be at 7:30 p.m. with Stephen Tompkins talking about binoculars. The task club members will receive an email link to the meeting about a week in advance of the meeting. I have no idea when the Texas Astronomical Society will resume having face-to-face meetings, nor when they will resume having public observing sessions. It would have been nice a few nights ago, but hopefully soon. Check their website, texasastro.org, for updated information and details. Thank you very much. Back to Billy. This is KF5JHA.
Thank you very much, Taz. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. And I'll turn the net over to Bill and BB if you'll give us information about the National Space Society.
Thank you, Billy. This is N5BB, November 5 Bravo Bravo. I happen to be the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. During normal times, we meet on the second Sunday afternoon of every month. But we are in abnormal times, and so we're doing everything virtual via WebEx. Our next WebEx meeting is going to be the second Sunday of January. That's Sunday, January the 10th at 4 p.m. local time. And I don't have the exact meeting topic, but it should be a presentation by our club's president, Ken Ruffin. He usually gives presentations about, some kind of manned space exploration. Or sometimes it's near-Earth objects in danger. I'm not sure what his topic will be for the January meeting. Our December meeting, the speaker was Amy Ross, who is a spacesuit designer at NASA Johnson Spacecraft Center in Houston, and the daughter of astronaut Jerry Ross. She gave a very interesting presentation on spacesuit design and some test materials that she had placed on the Perseverance Mars rover that's supposed to be landing on Mars in February. So that was a very interesting presentation. The November presentation was by Daniel Delago, flight software engineer at SpaceX in California. He graduated from UT Arlington. So that was very interesting, talking about space careers. And anyway, so if you would like to hear any of those presentations, either the one this coming month or the previous two presentations, you can just send me an email, and I will be glad to send you a link so you can either sign in to the current one and be a visitor, or listen to an MP4 from the previous ones. My email address is n5bb@arrl.net. That's November 5 Bravo Bravo at arrl.net. And because of COVID restrictions, we're not doing any, our organization is not making any presentations at local libraries or schools. We're going to have to wait until everything's opened up again before we can do that. So No other activities in 5BB. Thank you, Billy.
Thanks, Bill. Always appreciate all the information you bring to us about the National Space Society. Hi, this is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Next up is the discussion topic of the evening. So this evening, I wanted to discuss why does the new year begin on January 1st? I found this interesting article on earthsky.org, and it has some links embedded throughout the page with other helpful information. So if you go to earthsky.org, and look for why does the new year begin on January 1st, you'll find this interesting article posted by EarthSky and Paul Scott Anderson in Human. So celebrating the new year on January 1st is a human-created civil event, not a natural, seasonal, or astronomical one. And yet nature cooperates to make January 1st a satisfying time to start anew as the days begin to get longer again. The date of the new year is a human-made creation, not precisely fixed by any natural or seasonal marker. Our celebration of New Year's Day on January 1st is a civil event, despite the fact that for us in the northern hemisphere, where daylight has ebbed to almost its lowest point and the days are starting to get longer again, there's a feeling of rebirth in the air, a time of renewal, hence why New Year's resolutions are so popular. So where does the New Year's Day concept come from? It stems from an ancient Roman custom, the feast of the Roman god Janus, who was the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. This is also where the name for the month of January comes from, since Janus was depicted as having two faces. One face looked back into the past, and the other peered forward into the future, just like how on January 1st we can look back at the year that just ended and look forward to the new year that lies ahead. There was no equivalent of Janus in Greek mythology. To celebrate the new year, the Romans made promises to Janus. This is where the tradition of making New Year's Day resolutions comes from. On that day, it was customary to exchange cheerful words of good wishes. Shortly afterwards, on January 9th, the Rex Sacrorum offered the sacrifice of a ram to Janus. Although many do celebrate New Year's Day on January 1st, some cultures and religions do not. For example, Jews use a lunar calendar and celebrate the New Year in the fall on Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the month of Tishri, which is the 7th month of the Jewish year. This date usually occurs in September. Similar to other cultures' New Year's Day, the two-day holiday is both a time of rejoicing and of serious introspection, a time to celebrate the completion of another year, while also taking stock of one's life and looking ahead. It's also the famous Chinese New Year, also Lunar New Year, celebrated for weeks in January or early February. The Chinese New Year is the most important of Chinese holidays. Countries of Southeast Asia celebrate it, including China, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines. It's also celebrated in Chinatowns and Asian homes around the world, and is considered a time to honor deities and ancestors and to be with family. The event always sparks a rush of travel that the New York Times has called the world's largest annual human migration. For 2020, the Chinese New Year was the Year of the Rat on the Chinese zodiac, which began on January 25th. 2021 will be the Year of the Ox. The Chinese New Year will start on February 12th, and it will last until January 31st of 2022. Previous years of the Ox were 1913, 1925, 1937, 1949, 1961, 1973, 1985, 1997, and 2009. In addition to the longer days here in the Northern Hemisphere, there's another astronomical occurrence around January 1st each year that's also related to Earth's year, as defined around the Sun. That is, Earth's perihelion, or closest point to the Sun, happens every year in early January. January 1st hasn't always been New Year's Day throughout history, though. In the past, some New Year's celebrations took place at an equinox, a day when the Sun is above the Earth's equator, and night and day are equal in length. In many cultures, the March or vernal equinox marks a time of transition and new beginnings, and so cultural celebrations of a new year were natural for that equinox. September or autumnal equinox also had its proponents for the beginning of a new year. For example, the French Republican calendar, implemented during the French Revolution and used for about 12 years from late 1793 to 1805, started its year at the September equinox. Greeks celebrated the new year on the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. Bottom line, the reason to celebrate New Year's Day on January 1st is historical, not astronomical. The New Year was celebrated according to astronomical events, such as equinoxes and solstices, eons ago. Our modern New Year's Day celebration stems from the ancient two-faced god, Roman god Janus, after whom the month of January is also named. One face of Janus looked back into the past, as the other peered forward into the future. Interesting article. If you go look it up on earthsky.org, you'll find other embedded links where you can find out about other cultures' New Year's, and you can also find out information about the solstices, equinoxes, and other astronomical events mentioned in the article. So with that, I wish everybody a healthy, happy, and prosperous New Year. This is KF5 PDS, Billy, your net control for this session, ARC Skynet. All right, at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, my alternate net control, KE5ICX. If you'll around, see if we have any folks out there that would like to check in. And after that, you have permission to directly over to Chaz for What's Up. So to KE5ICX from KF5 PDS.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and this is KE5ICX. I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening in any mode, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Oscar Mike Romeo, Marcia in Dallas.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB 4 MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power.
Kilo 5, Alpha, 5, Mike from Charlie Alpha, Derek and Robinson.
All right, there were 3. I'm going to need a fill on one of these. I got KG5OMR, Marcia in Dallas, welcome. WB4MFI, that's Ted in Dallas, low power. The next station I got, I think, is Mike. I think it was Echolink. It's a Kilo 5 Alpha, and then you got doubled upon. Mike, you want to try one more time, please?
India 5, Mike Charlie Alpha, Derek in Robinson.
Kilo 5, Alpha November Papa, Alan in Dallas.
one out. Okay, let's see here. I do have KI5 MCA. That's Derek. I got you checked in. Sorry, I called you something else. Mike, but you're actually Derek. I got you. K5ANP. That's Alan in Dallas. Anyone else who would like to check in, please come down.
Is Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Magnolia, Texas.
All right, let's see. I've got one more. I got Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima. That's James in Magnolia, Texas. There was another station over on Echolink that you were all had no audio, and I was trying to figure out who that might be. You want to try one more time? I'll see if I can watch this more carefully. Go ahead.
Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Magnolia, Texas.
All right, I do have you, James. Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima over in Magnolia. Welcome, James. I do have you on the list. Number 28. Not too bad. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Chaz, KF5JHA. He's going to tell us what's up. Go right ahead from KE5I6.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Billy. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I'm the astrophysics lab manager at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. We call this segment of Skynet, What's Up? Slide number 2, please, slide master. That would be Tom. The moon was at its first quarter phase on December 21st, just a few days ago. So today's phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. The moon will be full on December 29th. The moon will be at its third quarter on January the 6th. And on January 13th, the moon will be at its new phase. Slide number 3. So I hope all of you observed the astronomical event of the year that occurred a few days ago. On December the 20th and 21st, Jupiter and Saturn were so close together in the sky that they almost appeared as a single object to the unaided eye. I actually could see both of them separated. What you're looking at, if you're looking at the video version, is a zoomed-in image of Jupiter and Saturn and their moons on December 20th. This is from Stellarium, some computer software, not actual pictures. The image would vary from telescope to telescope, and how much you see is determined by the aperture and eyepiece and magnification and field of view of the telescope and eyepiece. But on December 20th, you should have been able to see at least all 4 Galilean moons, Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, and the biggest moon of Saturn, which is Titan. Depending on your telescope, this image could have been flipped upside down or flipped left to right or both. I used my 20 by 80 binoculars because it was an easy setup. Some of my neighbors enjoyed looking through the binoculars too. Now, I have a question. Do any of you out there in Radio Land wish to tell us if you observed it and how you observed it and what you saw? Come now with your call sign.
N5BB.
KE5I6.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
W5GUS.
There's 3 of them right now. So, Bill, you're up first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chaz. The early bird gets the worm. Well, the night before the best night, so the previous night, I went outside too late, and I didn't see it, and I looked at Starwalk on my iPhone, and I found that they were below the horizon. So I decided I had to go out there right after sundown, and wow, they were great in the southwest sky. And got a good view of them with the naked eye, and I had some little cheap binoculars and got an even better view of them, and could easily, separate Jupiter from Saturn, and I saw something that looked like some moons right above them from my point of view, but I'm going to have to go and look at some pictures and see if I was really seeing the moons or some other star that happens to be in my field of view. Anyway, I'm glad I did it in 5EB.
Yeah, Bill, that's what you were seeing. You were seeing Jupiter's moons. That's great. Tom, you're up next.
Well, thank you, Chaz. I learned some things. The 20 by 80 binoculars, which is what you have, no, I didn't steal them from you, but they look a lot alike. I found out I was blind in the right eye. Here's the thing. You got to be careful. You got to make sure that you put the image right in the center of your field of view, because there's that spherical thing that goes on, and you know the name and I don't, but the same thing that Galileo Galilei had with his telescope when he was looking is just kind of hard, the abrasion and everything. But let me tell you this, I saw it, I watched it several nights in a row, right up and with the occultation, I think I got that right. In any case, it was really cool. You could see it. I did not see Titan, sorry. I think you needed time exposure for that, even with the 20 by 80 here in the city. But I did see the 4 Galilean moons, which was really cool. And I'll always remember this for the rest of my life, that you could see 2 planets in the same field of view. Now, I know you can do the Earth thing and something above and a horizon, but this was cool. Outer planets in the same field of view. I loved it. I thought it was cool. Saw lots of pictures from Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas and the stuff they did. Various pictures, stacked photos and stuff, which was really nice, even in slight overexposure, so you can go ahead and see Titan. So, very cool. I liked it. This astronomy thing's kind of cool. KE5ICX.
Yes, you can get lens flaring off to the edges. It's oftentimes called aberration. Yes, aberration, chromatic aberration, and there's other ones that you can have too. And I found that the same thing in my binoculars, Tom, that if you put it in the center, you don't have much of a problem with any of the aberrations. Okay, Tony, I think you're up next. Come now.
Hey, Chaz, it's great to hear you. You sound wonderful on the net, and I think you doubled with W5GUS Gus. I think he was trying to be a force participant in this segment. Aaron and I had a great time. We got out all the glass stuff we have. We used her bird-watching telephoto lens. We used, 7 by 50 binoculars and 15 by 70 binoculars. We used my old Galileo scope from 2009. That's a little simple 2-inch refractor. It doesn't gather much light, but they paid a lot of attention to quality design, so images through a Galileo scope are extremely sharp. And then a new spotting scope, which goes from 20 power to 60 power by 80, and we looked at that for several nights this week. There was one night that was cluttered over. That may even have been the 24th, but things were good on the 23rd and the 25th. And even just before twilight today, although they're getting further apart. It was amazing. We saw the Galilean satellites. We did have a problem, though, because it's actually, when you gather a little bit more light, but you can't decrease you can't increase the power, which makes things dimmer, like in a spotting scope with a zoom eyepiece, it's hard to see the cloud bands on Jupiter. Yes, it's big. It's a disk at 80 power.
but it's too bright. That was an interesting thing. I've got to learn how to make a cardboard obstruction device to reduce the brightness of things with spotting scope. And no, we could not see Titan. Aaron and I have not seen Titan since back before COVID when there were star parties. And we went out to Mesquite and looked at Saturn through someone's 12-inch Dobsonian, in which Titan was very clear and a bright little hard star next to Saturn. So we didn't see Titan, but we saw the rings. We could even see the rings through Aaron's 500-millimeter bird-watching lens. 600-millimeter bird-watching lens. That was awesome. And it was just a lot of fun. People were driving down. This is the social part of astronomy. Because this was promoted in the news, people would see us out in our front yard with tripods and binoculars and stop and call out of their car windows to us, "Oh, have you seen it yet? What does it look like? What equipment are you using? Could I see it through binoculars?" And we tried to be as reassuring and encouraging as we could, because even through my little bird-watching binoculars, yeah, you can't clearly see the rings of Saturn. You could clearly see that Saturn was not a circle. There was something extra there. So there was a real social element to this great conjunction as well. It was really fun to have neighbors wander by on foot and drive by and get to kind of share notes and tips. That was a big, important part of it. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, Gus, did I stomp on you? Come now if you'd like to talk about your observing sequence of the conjunction of the planets. Go ahead.
All right, thanks, Chaz, and thanks, Tony. Yeah, I saw it, I guess, the day after the optimum, or the night after the optimum night. I was just using some 7x50 binoculars, and it was, I really enjoyed it too. When you see both of those planets together, you know, you can, maybe it was just my imagination, but you could really tell the distance. I mean, you could see one is closer than the other, and you could kind of, that might be just imagination, but that's the thing that I came away with, you know, to see two planets like that. One is closer to Earth, one is farther from Earth, and it really was so nice to realize the proximity of each of them related to Earth. It's really interesting. I enjoyed it. I didn't have a tripod with me, but I leaned back against the house and held my shoulder against the house, and could kind of see I could see the conjunction in a break between the trees. And so it was speaking of break. So I stood there about 10 or 15 minutes and noticed and observed things very, very well. Tony described it just right. You couldn't really make out the rings, but you could see that there was something there. The different colors of the two objects was pretty interesting as well. Back to net, W5GUS.
Thank you, Gus. Thanks all of you. Okay, I'm going to move on because we have to move on and do some other things. I'll bet a lot of you went out there and took a look at the conjunction. By the way, several years ago, Jupiter and Uranus were in conjunction, where you could see both of them in the same field of view of a telescope too, and that was interesting. But didn't have the hype because, of course, Uranus you can't see with your naked eye. All right, Slide Master. I think we're up to slide number 4. On January the 2nd, 2021, at 7:51 a.m. Central Standard Time, the Earth will be at its perihelion. Billy told us about that earlier. This is a point in the Earth's orbit where the Earth is at the closest to the Sun. The Earth is being closer or further away from the Sun does not determine the seasons, but rather the tilt of the Earth's axis of rotation determines that. When the Earth's northern hemisphere is pointed toward the Sun, that is when it is summer. And when the northern hemisphere is pointed away from the Sun, that is when it's winter. Slide number 5. In January, there's going to be one major meteor shower called the Quadrantids. It often produces up to 120 meteors per hour. They will peak on the night of January the 3rd and 4th. I always suggest camping at a Texas state park to watch the meteors. Why? Because it's a great place to do it from. For details about meteors and meteor showers, visit the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org or the International Meteor Organization at imo.net. Just remember one of them, and you can switch back and forth between the two websites because they have links to each other. And my call sign is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 6, please. The next Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting, I've already told you about this, is on January 22nd at 7:30 p.m. It's a virtual one with Stephen Tompkins talking about binoculars. Details about that you can find at texasastro.org. Now, slide number 6. Any of you out there in Radio Land have any other questions or need to fill on any information? Or do you just have a good general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question.
This is KG5BCW.
I think that was BGW. Please go ahead.
Okay, this is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. I also watched the conjunction. I was just wondering, is there a name for a particular like tripod mount that's azimuth elevation type of a deal? Because I have to admit, my telescope it's not too bad, but the tripod itself, oh man, I get it set up, and then of course the movement of the Earth takes the flash out of the view just a couple minutes later. So I was kind of wondering if there is something I could buy, or is this just something that featured a more expensive telescope? It was a kind of whatever my parents could afford when I was a kid. So, you know, it's probably not the best in the world, but I saw the rings of Saturn, and probably would have done better on Jupiter had I used like a moon filter or something that I can put on the optics, which I've lost. But anyway, so yeah, do you happen to know? Is there something I need to be looking for? KG5BZW.
Thank you for the question, Jay. You know, I could spend an hour working on answering that question. What you probably have is an inexpensive telescope that came with sort of an interesting tripod. Oftentimes they're so wobbly you have a hard time getting the objects in. At least you got the objects in. What you need to have is a tripod that actually will track the objects in the sky. It counteracts the Earth's rotation on its axis. That usually comes with the telescope. Sometimes you can buy a tripod that you can put your telescope on that you'd buy separately the tripod and then put the telescope on there. That's a tracker. But usually you buy them together as a set. So I'm trying to answer your question in a short period of time, and I'm probably not doing a good job of it. Is that helping you a little bit, Jay?
That's a good enough answer for me for now. Thank you, KG5BZW.
Okay, Jay, thank you so much. Yeah, you usually want to buy a little bit more expensive telescope that actually has the tracking mechanism on it. Sometimes you can buy the tripod that has slow motion controls that are little knobs that you can turn to to manually keep up with it, but I like the motor-driven clock drives, is what they're oftentimes called, that'll track it. Okay, let's see. Slide number 8, Mr. Slide Master. So as the moon is waning during the beginning of January, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. Until next week, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA. Back to our net control, Billy. That would be KF5PDS.
Thank you, Chaz. Yes, this is KF5PDS. Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. And I, too, went out and observed the conjunction. I went out on 2 nights. I went out on the 20th and 21st. And I took my hardened 6-inch Dobsonian telescope and was able to easily get both planets into the field of view, which is really awesome. I was really, was like Tom. I just couldn't believe it. We've got these two, outer planets, in the same field of view. It was so wild to see that. I was able to make out the Galilean moons and easily see the rings of Saturn. Seeing wasn't too good, so I couldn't pick up the bands of Jupiter, the gas bands, but I could easily see the 4 moons and easily see the rings around Saturn. I did manage to snap a picture with my cell phone through a 20-millimeter eyepiece, which I posted on Facebook. Those of you that can see my Facebook page, you can see the post I made. And because I was trying with my normal cameras, but all the batteries were dying on me, so I took one last leap with my cell phone, was able to get an okay shot. It wasn't the best, but if you go look around out there in the world, you'll see some spectacular images that folks were getting. So hopefully if you're able to see it, it was really amazing to see. I did get some tripod shots with my DSLR camera where the 2 planets just looked like 2 very bright stars, very, very close together in the sky. So it really was really nice, clear nights on both of those nights. But there was some wavering in the sky, so there was some, twinkling of stars, and the seeing wasn't that great because they were pretty low in the sky, but it was still awesome to see. So anytime you can get out for a conjunction or planetary viewing or transits, when they go across the sun, those are all spectacular astronomical events. So get out and observe, folks. It's really awesome to see these events. So thank you, Chaz, and thanks to all who volunteered their experiences. It was really great to hear that. All right, next up we have space exploration and space history. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. Well, in space exploration news, first up, FAA gives Santa a space license. NORAD regularly tracks Santa's trip around the world each Christmas, but this year was a bit different. On Wednesday, December 23rd, the FAA gave Santa and his reindeer-powered sleigh an official commercial space license for launches and landings and a crewed flight to the station. That cleared the skies for Santa's trip to the space station, where 7 astronauts and cosmonauts are working as part of the Expedition 64 mission. Santa is apparently flying the Star Sleigh 1, powered by a Rudolph rocket, according to the FAA. Rudolph is clearly visible in the NORAD AGI video, lighting up the depths of space with his brilliant red nose. The new video does have some peculiarities. Only one SpaceX Dragon spaceflight is visible at the station, and there are currently 2 docked there. And recent Northrop Grumman NG-14 Cygnus cargo ship, which departs the station next month, is nowhere to be seen. Still, it's great to see Santa wearing a spacesuit helmet and his open sleigh, although that appears to be just an extra precaution. An AGA spokesperson assured Space.com that Santa and his reindeer don't really need spacesuits because of their magic. The crew gave its traditional annual holiday greetings to the people of Earth. No word on whether crew member Baby Yoda displayed any of his own magic. NASA helps bring airport communications into the digital age. Some of the best entertainment at the airport is all the action outside the window. Loaded luggage carriers zip past on their way to planes. Fuel trucks come and go. Catering trucks, restock galleys. During the winter, de-icing crews and snow plows add to the bustle. This organized chaos is overseen by the ground control managers as part of an airport-wide effort to ensure the safety of all ground operations. And as air travel has increased, the challenge of keeping track of all the moving parts is only growing. However, a digital wireless airport communication systems developed in part by NASA is now poised to change the game. For decades, airports have relied mainly on voice communications over unsecured radio frequencies, with landline phone calls as the only secure backup option. Going forward, the Aeronautical Mobile Aircraft Communications System, it's AeroMax, will allow FAA staff and control towers to send safety-critical information digitally and securely, and should lead to shorter wait times on the tarmac. This is a NASA spinoff, and you can see more at spinoff.nasa.gov, or the link below. There is a new publication called Spinoff, which you can access. The cover is a very cool artist rendering of the Perseverance helicopter, which is called Ingenuity, on Mars. Earlier this month, the Japanese Space Agency, JAXA, succeeded in bringing a sample of asteroid Ryugu back to Earth. JAXA announced that following the return of the sample to Earth, it had been opened for processing on December 21st. Of the 3 sample containers, A, B, and C, there are a variety of different sizes of rock, from smaller dust particles up to rocks the size of 1 centimeter across in sample container C. The contents of A and C are shown in the 2 photos below. In the photo of the sample from container C, which you can see on the right, there's a strange silver object labeled, and that's in Japanese. I think it's maybe Japanese for WTH. JAXA experts believe this object may be a part of the sampling machinery that broke off during the sample collection. We've not yet confirmed the origin of the artificial object. The agency said on Twitter, a projectile was used during the sample collection. It's possible that this is aluminum separated from the sampler horn at that time. And these are tiny little containers. They're like 5 millimeters across. They're not big at all. Astronaut Birthdays. December 25th, 1959, Michael P. Anderson, and I forgot to look up what he did. December 14th, 1960, Catherine Coleman, 2 shuttle missions and 1 Soyuz. December 18th, 1951, Andy Thomas, 4 shuttle missions. December 23rd, 1937, Carol J. Bomko, 3 shuttle missions. December 21st, 1945, Millie Hughes Fulford, 1 shuttle mission. December 18th, 1857, Michael E. Fossum, 2 shuttle missions and 1 Soyuz mission. December 14th, 1936, Robert A. Parker, 2 shuttle missions. December 19th, 1951, Frederick W. Leslie, 1 shuttle mission. December 22nd, 1935, John L. Finley, who is a test pilot and no space missions. And December 19th, 1935, Lawrence R. Young, and no missions. Okay, this week in space history. December 26, 1974, Salyut 4 launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan and entered an orbit 270 miles above the Earth. 3 cosmonaut crews attempted to stay aboard Salyut 4, but they didn't all make it there successfully. The first mission, Soyuz 17, arrived about 2 weeks after Salyut 4 launched. The first 2 cosmonauts to visit Salyut 4 spent 29 days on board. A couple of months later, a second Soyuz mission, 18, launched to the space station, but they never made it there. The spacecraft spacecraft failed to reach orbit, but luckily the crew survived. Just 7 weeks later, a third crew successfully launched to Salyut 4, and they ended up staying for 63 days. After they left, Salyut 4 stayed in orbit for another year and a half before it deorbited and burned up in the Earth's atmosphere. And then December 24th, 1968, 3 NASA astronauts had a Christmas like no one on Earth in 1968. That's because the Apollo 8 astronauts, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders, were visiting the moon. This iconic Earthrise image was captured by the astronauts on Christmas Eve, showing all of humanity from the vantage point of the lunar orbit. Okay, that is all. Back to net. WB50ZO.
Thank you, Brenda. And while you were giving those all that great space news and everything, I looked at Michael P. Anderson. He was a NASA astronaut that flew STS-89, STS-107, but sadly he was one of the astronauts killed in the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster when the craft disintegrated during its re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. So wanted to give that bit of information about Michael P. Anderson. All right. Next up is Miss Carolyn's Consolation of the Week. But before we do that, let me turn the net over to Tom, KE5ITX. If you will do a quick check-in round, see if we have any other folks that wish to check in. And then you have permission to turn the net over to Chaz after the check-in round. So to KE5ITX from KF5's PDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 5, Alpha November Echo, Kane and Richardson.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Delta Echo Bravo, Jason in Plano.
All right, let me get those two. I've got K5ANE, that's Kane over in Richardson. I got K5 Delta Echo Bravo, that's Jason in Plano. Anyone else, please come down. All right, we will continue on. So, Chaz, KF5JHA, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is now. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Billy. Miss Carolyn's Consolation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we've continued the tradition of the constellation per week. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is actually a double feature, Aries the Ram and Triangulum the Triangle. In mythology, I was on slide number 9 at that point. In mythology, Aries represents the ram, which is the source of the Golden Fleece. The Golden Fleece was central to the story of Jason and the Argonauts. I'll bet you can look that up. I don't want to go into detail about that. Slide number 10, please. Miss Sardis Thim is Gamma Aries. Its original name appears to have been lost to antiquity. Richard Allen notes that the possible connection to the Hebrew word that means ministers, but acknowledges that this connection may be erroneous. William Tyler Olcott, in his book Star Lore, Myths, Legends, and Facts, notes that this star has been translated into two attendants, which is a reference to both Beta and Gamma Aries being the two attendant stars of Hamel, the brightest star in Aries. This star is a binary star and is one of the earliest examples to be discovered, being found to be doubled by Robert Hooke in 1664 while he was tracking a comet passing through Aries. The two stars are very close together, separated by only 7 seconds, but they can be easily split by a small telescope. Components A and B have almost equal brightnesses at 4.52 and 4.58. We're up to slide number 11. NGC 772 is a spiral galaxy and is listed as being about 98 million light years away. David Hutchinson writes that he's been able to spot NGC 772 with a 4.5-inch reflector from a dark sky site. In the Night Sky Observer's Guide by George Keppel and Glenn Sander, note that NGC 772 is the brightest galaxy in Aries. Its magnitude is 10.3. And that in a 8 to 10-inch telescope, it shows a small, bright core surrounded by a very faint, diffuse halo. Slide number 12, NGC 972 is a spiral galaxy of about 11.4 magnitude, and David Hutchinson also found reports of observations of this galaxy to be made with a 4-inch refractor. Do not specify NGC 972 as a challenge object, making it a challenging try, but he did challenge people to try to observe this galaxy with a smaller aperture instrument. The view that you see of NGC 972 is oblique. It's not an edge-on view, but it's fairly close to being edge-on, which makes it appear to Dave Hutchinson to be an elliptical galaxy. But it really is a spiral galaxy. Slide number 13, Consolation of Triangulum. Here's our second constellation. It's being known since ancient times. It's known as Delton, to the ancient Greeks from its similarity to the Greek letter delta. This similarity in shape is also led to be associated with the River Nile, particularly the Nile Delta. Iota Triangulum. This star is unable to be split in 42 power, but at 81 power, it can be split. But the two stars are very close together. At 126 power magnification, it's easily split. The pair consists of a brighter star and a fainter star. The fainter star looks bluish. The brighter star has a gold color. Triangulum. This double star is easily split in a 50-millimeter finder scope. All those people that had those binoculars and things out looking at the conjunction, you could go take a look at this star easily. So it's definitely a binocular object. At 42 power, it's another Alberio wannabe with a yellow brighter star and a bluish-green companion. Again, the color contrast is not as pronounced as Alberio itself, but this is such an easy double at 42 power. You can drive a Mack truck through the two stars of 15 Triangulum. Slide number 14. M33, it's the only deep sky object I'm using in Triangulum because, well, it's a galaxy, and it's a little bit closer to us than the Andromeda galaxy. It was discovered by Charles Messier himself on August the 25th, 1764. Burnham's Celestial Handbook calls it one of the notable discoveries of Messier. M33 is a typical SG spiral galaxy, and being a member of our local group of galaxies, is the closest galaxy of that type to the Earth. M33 is often called the Triangulum Galaxy or the Penrose Galaxy. This is galaxy with M101. Comparing M33 to M31, the Andromeda galaxy, to our own Milky Way, M33 is relatively small in its spiral galaxy, being about 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter, whereas Andromeda is 150,000 light years in diameter, and the Milky Way is 100,000 light years in diameter. M33 and M31 are both roughly the same distance from the Earth, about 2.3 or 2.4 million light years away. Robert Burnham Jr. in his Celestial Handbook writes that it's interesting to note that M33 and M31 are only about 570,000 light years apart from each other, 4 times closer than either it is to our own Milky Way. In fact, even J. O'Meara, in his book The Messiah's Objects, notes that M33 may be a satellite galaxy of M31, orbiting just as moon orbits the Earth. And I am KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 15, sir. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellations of Aries, the Ram, and Triangulum. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 60 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe 10 different objects in an observing program each month for a year, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in that year. Slide number 16, and that is Miss Carolyn's Consolation of the Week. This week, Aries, the Ram, and Triangulum. Remember, it's a 2-for special. I want to thank my friends David Hutchinson, Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used tonight. I'll also, sometimes we'll use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next week, we'll take a look at Pisces, the fish. Or is it fishes? Oh well. Back to you. Billy, I'm sorry. I had a memory lapse. KF5PDS, this is KF5JHA.
Thank you very much, Chaz. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control, for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is space launches for the week. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX. The net is yours.
Thank you again, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'll just give you a few because we're running a little long. Here we go. Space launches for the week. I get the information from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. And by the way, every one of these launches is available on stream, so be alert and you can watch them. December 28th, there is a launch for an Ariane Space Soyuz rocket designated Victor Sierra 25 will launch on a mission from the Guyana Space Center in South America. The Soyuz will carry into polar orbit the second Composat Spécial Optique military reconnaissance satellite for CNS, NES, and DGA, the French Defense Procurement Agency. The CSO-2 satellite is the second of 3 new generation high-resolution optical imaging satellites for the French military. In January, we have the launch of Elena 20, the launch site of aircraft. The Cosmic Girl, Boeing 747 out of Mojave Air and Spaceport, California. The Virgin Orbit Launcher 1 rocket will launch on its second flight after dropping from the modified 747 carrier jet, an all-passenger jet. I have a model of it. The flight will be conducted under contract with NASA's Venture Class Launch Services program, carrying 14 CubeSats to orbit for NASA's field centers, U.S. educational institutions, and laboratories, the Elena 20 rideshare mission. And I'll give you one more here. This is, let's see, January 4th, 5th, overnight, TurkSat 5A. This will launch from Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force station, Space Force Station. They changed the name in Florida. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Turksat 5A communication satellite for Turksat, a Turkish satellite operator built by Airbus Defense and Space with significant Turkish contributions. The Turkish 5 Alpha satellite will provide KU manned television broadcast services over Turkey, the Middle East, Europe, and Africa. I'm going to send it back to net control. This is KECX.
Thank you, Tom, for that information. Yeah, we're starting to run up against time here. Next up is recent astronomical discoveries. Brenda, if you can give us a short rundown on your article, that would be great. So this is KF5 PDF it to WB5OZL.
This is WB5OZL. Well, it's already 10:27. I can hold this over for next week if everybody wants.
We can do that. I just didn't want to skip over you. So, yeah, if you don't mind, we'll just do your article next time. So, thanks for the earlier information on space exploration, too. Normally we would cover visible satellite passages, but since we're running short on time, I'll give you some info about that. You can use the www.heavens-above.com website to find out what's in orbit and where to look during flyovers. You can put in your GPS information, your city and state, and you can get local times for all those happenings on heavens-above.com. All right, at this time, I'll turn it over to Tom. If you'll do a final check-in round and get a final count for this evening's net, I would appreciate it. So KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
This is KE5ICX. This is final call, last call. Anyone who would like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Well, Miss Billy, I guess that's it. We had 30 check-ins this evening. Back to you, KE5I6.
All right, roger that. Tonight we've had 30 hams participating on the air, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On
I'm
this net, the
completely
sky is
operational
never the
and
limit.
all my circuits
We're
are
always
functioning
looking for net
perfectly.
control stations for this and all the other BARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to net@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. So 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, following Skynet is the Afterglow movie net, so stay tuned for that, where we'll be discussing the 1975 movie, The Stepford Wives. 73, everybody.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and this is KE5ICX. We'll be back in about 5 minutes to discuss the Stepford Wives. Anybody who would like to be net control, you can raise your hand in between that time. We'll be back 5 minutes. This is KE5I6.
I guess I could be net control if nobody else wants it. K5ANE.
Oh, you got it, Gene, you're net control. I mean, if you want to.
Yay.
Hey, if somebody else wants to, feel free to step in. I don't exactly have anything written up.
Nobody else does either. This is WB50ZL. Go for it.
Alrighty, we'll get started with the Afterglow Movie Net in just another couple minutes.
Two minutes and 31 seconds. Seconds.
Alrighty, is this thing on? Hey, it's me, K5ANE. I'll be your net control tonight for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. This week's movie was The Stepford Wives, and it was the 1975 film, not the 2004 film. But there are a lot alike, so even if you watch the 2004 film, you'll still probably have a pretty similar kind of conversation here. The Stepford Wives was a 1975 American satirical horror film directed by Brian Forbes, written by William Goldman, starring Catherine Ross, Paula Prentice, and Peter Masterson. I'm going to go ahead and read the description that KE5ICX sent out earlier. And, yeah, one second. Joanna looked across the table, and the four women stared back. It appeared they weren't fooling around, and Joanna knew her goose was cooked if she didn't politely comply. Carol began. As you know, Tupperware is the foundational force for mankind. Without it, we would starve, or at the very least, we would have to make meals for our glorious husbands every single day. Joanna was from New York, and this was Fairfield County, Connecticut, a, quote, rural area with no county government. It was the men who ran everything. So, Joanna, how many tons of Tupperware would you like to buy today? Enough to save the lives of your family, preserve civilization, and keep that handsome husband happy? A beep went off in the kitchen. Her goose was cooked. This film was pretty well mixed on its reviews, and yeah, we'll probably have lots of mixed reviews here as well. In this net, we go ahead and take check-ins, and then we have 3 different rounds where we talk about the plot, then we talk about characterization, and then we'll talk about anything else we feel like talking about. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and start off by taking some check-ins. Come on in with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving.
Early X-ray, Tom in Louisville, yes. 1975 version.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Yes, we saw it. November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving. Yes, I did see the 75 version.
All right, I'll go ahead and stop that here. I've got November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving, who did see the movie. And by the way, that's one thing that I forgot to mention when you're checking in. It'll be your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie or not. I also have KE5ICX, Tom in Louisville, who saw it. November Tango 5, Tango Mike, and I always have a hard time remembering your name, even though you say it every time. And yes, you saw the movie in Dallas. More check-ins. Come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie or not.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto, and yes, I saw the movie.
Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Jane Weber, yes, I saw the film. Also, you guys the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I saw the movie.
All right, I heard WB5, OZL, Brenda in DeSoto, who saw the movie. I caught KG5, VZW, Jay in Weatherford. You're coming in a little bit scratchy, kind of hard to hear. You could possibly improve your transmit or hop on Echolink. I know you like to be on Echolink as well. That'd be great. And I caught KB5, SOK, Sean, who did see the movie. Any other check-ins? Come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie.
November Golf 5 Yankee, Allen in North Garland, and yes, I saw the movie.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman on Echo Link. Yes, I saw the film.
All right, I heard NG5Y, Alan, who saw the movie, and KF5PDS, Billy and Sherman, who also saw the movie. Once again, this is Afterglow Movie Net. We're going to be talking about the Stepford Wives. If anybody else would like to check in, come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie. All right, nothing heard. I guess we'll go on into our first segment of the plot. and I'm just going to start randomly picking people in the list here, just to kind of jump it around and keep things interesting. WB5OZL, Brenda, DeSoto. What do you think of the plot?
This is WB5OZL. Well, first let me say I like this movie. It did what it was supposed to do. It's tense, it's scary, the music was good and set up the mood, and the dialogue was good, it moved along, it had good pacing, and so on. The problem I have with the plot is just that it's so implausible. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I can't imagine a man wanting a robot like that for a wife. You know, she's not going to get the joke. She's certainly not going to get her ham license. And they're just robots. There's not going to be any communication or any fun or anything. If you're that interested in a clean house, hire a maid. You know, I don't understand that. Although I do know this is intended to be satire, and even if you haven't seen the movie, you know what a Stepford wife is. Everybody in the country does. You know that term, Stepford. And it's really kind of a scary thought. And that's the part that makes it fun. It's scary. It's just... I think one of the scariest themes in science fiction is like the body snatchers. Yeah, he looks like my husband, but it's not him. I know it's not him. And convincing people of that is so hard. And it's one of the most frightening themes that we ever see in sci-fi. Back to that, WB5OZL.
WB5OZL, this is K5A&E, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net here on W5FT. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And just like the whole gaslighting thing in this movie of everybody doesn't really believe her, that everybody else is changing, and the fact, even her closest friend is, changing. It's definitely a horror kind of feel to it, as well as, this, sci-fi. You could almost consider it lighthearted, but, it's really not in many ways. Let's continue on. KE5ICX, Tom, what do you think of the plot?
Well, hi, Jane, and thank you for doing the net this evening as net control. You're the best. I enjoyed the film quite a bit. I thought it was quite interesting. This is 1975, so what was really kind of interesting about the whole thing is that they were making fun of all the ads that were going on back then. You're too young to know that, but I remember them, and every scene kind of opened up like an ad. And you'll notice all the product placement, kind of product placement for housewives stuff going on. And this is at a time after, women's liberation was starting to really make a beachhead back in the early 70s, the mid-70s, and they're going right back to the old, tropes that went along with it. Make coffee. You make the best coffee in the world, except one of the Stepford Wives didn't. She made Folgers crystals. That stuff sucks. Don't drink it from an Android or anything else. So I thought that was really, really interesting in how they did it. I can see how it could be offensive because it's sort of like, let's go right back to the robot world. And Brenda's right. Why the heck would you want to have a robot as your wife in the end? Jeez. That would be like, I don't know, just bad, I think. But I thought the way that the story was set up and how it was done, the only thing that didn't make sense to me, let me reset, is that this men's club that's there deciding that this is the thing to do, sure, peer pressure, I guess, plays into it, but why didn't they just kind of like jump away from it and say, no, now I'm thinking about men's clubs, and maybe you can't do that. Billiards would be nice. It's a lot simpler, I guess, and I don't know, poker maybe, and drinking and doing all that guy stuff, cigars, lots of cigars. I noticed the cigars. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. But I don't know. I found it intriguing. I really did. I thought it was an interesting and very uneasy thing, particularly today. You know, with I don't know what are guys supposed to do, what are they not supposed to do, and all of that. In this case, they were sure of themselves to the point of being obstinate. So, kind of had those thoughts going through my head. I think this movie is really better than it's built because it has these things that just, you know, you're wondering, where is this going and how is this going to end? The fifth scene, I always call it the fifth scene, always is kind of troublesome because you build up and you go, what are they going to do next? And then they did, it's a robot. Geez, did you see Westworld earlier this year? Which is essentially what they're saying. But I thought the build-up was really interesting. TV series would make a great TV series. Would you like some Folger crystals? Back to net control.
This is K5ANE net control for the Afterglow Movie Net here on W5SC. And I definitely understand the connection there that they're trying to talk about, the consumerism and advertising and that whole kind of world. You see that same kind of a thing even when you draw back to 1984 and whatnot. Just the role of advertising continuing to dominate the consciousness of society, and it's something that we still haven't yet seemed to have solved. So once again, this is a movie. It's a book written even before then with the same kind of concept, and it's interesting that same kind of idea continues to be relevant in today's society, despite the fact that this was a book in the 1970s, a movie in the 1970s, came out on a movie in 2004, and still seemed to fit in pretty well in 2004. And you could make this movie today and it would still be somewhat of a thing. Some of the men's clubs in the rural suburbs, there's not too many. I mean, I guess there are some places that are still kind of like that, even here around in Plano, further out of Plano and whatnot, and you get into like Parker, Texas, or things like that. You could almost kind of envision this being something out there. So it's definitely something that could happen today. Despite being very sci-fi. So yeah. Once again, this is K5ANE net controls for the Afterglow Movie Net, and we'll continue on and grab another random name out of the hat here, and we have NG5Y, Alan. What'd you think of the plot?
Oh, I liked the movie overall. I think I saw the later movie first. I saw this one tonight. It held you in suspense, and like to see that. Other than that, I enjoyed the movie. NG5Y, back to that.
NG5Y, KNE, thanks for that. And we'll continue on. N5BB, Bill, what'd you think of the plot?
Hi, Kane. This is N5BB. Overall, okay, but there were several things that bothered me, and this could have been, don't know if it was exactly directing or the screenwriting in particular. I was bothered by the main character, Catherine Ross, by her driving that station wagon in crazy ways. She went right past the bus with letting the children out. She ran stop signs. She ran over people's mailboxes. She crashed another vehicle. So during part of the movie, her behavior was so over the top. And another thing that bothered me is when she stuck the knife directly into the other woman. She didn't, after cutting her skin, which was also pretty amazing, she didn't nick the other lady's skin. She stuck it right into her abdomen. If she had been a human, it would have quite possibly killed her. So, in one way of viewing this, the protagonist there was a little bit out of her head. She had actually gone crazy. Not only were other people saying she was crazy, she was doing some things which pretty objectively are pretty over the top. So, I don't know. That was a little bit weird. The movie was definitely mid-70s. I was in college at the time. And the difference between the more kind of closer to hippie or new generation dress of Paula Prentice and Catherine Ross, the two main reformer people, women, the difference in their dress and how they did things versus these other women in their kind of older, primer style dresses was very interesting. You can just look at how they're dressed and kind of figure out who's on which side. I'm wondering if something was cut out. It nearly looks to me like the section closer to the end where she goes to see the, I guess, psychologist or whatever, psychiatrist, whoever the other lady was. To me, that was rather rushed. And I didn't exactly follow that. So, either to me it was badly written, that section, or they filmed a lot more and just chopped it out and just threw in a few scenes. And, because to me that wasn't done very clearly. Anyway, I'm sure I've seen the second movie also, so I may be confusing some things I saw in the second movie which were not in the first movie, which may be why it appears to me that there's missing things cut out from the version that I saw today. Anyway, N5BB, that's it.
N5BB, this is K5ANE net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And yeah, I do agree with you. The scene with the psychiatrist did seem a little bit rushed, but I kind of feel like there's almost a point to it that it was, rushed and unfulfilling, in that that's kind of how, maybe she felt that whole experience was. She's kind of feeling like everything around her is just going so fast and collapsing, and she has no time, and she goes to try and have this lady help her, and there just isn't really any help to be had from this, the psychiatrist. And, in the end, the psychiatrist just kind of tells her, just bounces back, well, if you think you should leave, then maybe you should leave. And so it's like, well, that wasn't really helpful at all. It's just kind of more of a distraction. You can kind of tell that it was kind of something that the husband was just kind of suggesting and throwing out to just kind of kick the can down the curve a little bit and keep things kind of going, because, the robot isn't quite ready yet. Yeah, anyways, spoiler. Let's continue on, and let's see, grab another name out of the hat. KG5BZW, Jay in Weatherford. What do you think of the plot?
This is KG5BZW. I like the film. I did kind of find the overall plot. I forgot the word I was trying to use. The plot's just a little bit over the top itself because I mean, it's not just the men with their wives. You have people with daughters, and how would they? I find it hard to believe that these guys would just want to, not just replace their wives, but have daughters that would be eventually replaced. It's maybe I'm thinking too far for these husbands, which want a very simple wife. I don't know. Other than that, it's kind of interesting. I decided to look up Capra syndrome, which would be the scenario if the lady actually was paranoid and had the delusion that a friend, spouse, parent, or other close family member had been replaced. So, I didn't get to review that too much. I wanted to say something smart about that, but that, by the way, that was identified by French psychiatrist and Joseph Capra. He died in 1950, so that was certainly a few years before this book. I'm pretty sure. And I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else I can say because that hasn't already been said. It is an interesting film for its satire. It's kind of interesting to look at it just kind of devil's advocate point of view of whether she really was in a delusion and and all of this was happening in her delusion. What would the reality be? I don't know. I think it's. I think even that's going to be a little bit of a stretch. But it's going to be a stretch in any case, just because. But it's still interesting to think about because, it brings up questions like how much comfort are we really willing to how much are we really willing to sacrifice for comfort? I guess in general and in specific satire of sexist attitudes and all that stuff. But I don't know, it's definitely an interesting film. KG5BCW, back to K5A&E, excuse me, back to net.
KG5BZW, this is K5A&E net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Thanks for being on the net and sharing that opinion. Let's continue on and grab another random name out of the hat. KB5SOK, Sean, what do you think of the plot?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. People may not happy with this comment, but personally, if I'm being honest, I didn't really enjoy the movie. I felt the first half of the movie was painfully slow, even to the point where I actually just shut the movie off and walked away from it, and then finished it the next evening. The first half of the movie was pretty much just making the clear point that she was very, 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 very unhappy with living out in the country with nothing to do. And I think they didn't really need to dwell on that much. I think they could have moved it along much quicker. And so, yeah, that part kind of put me off at the beginning. The movie did get better during the second half as they actually started to really get into what was going on. But I'd almost wouldn't really classify this as a horror or sci-fi movie to some extent, because there was a little bit of that in there, but not really a whole lot. I mean, partly the only reason we even knew they were robots was just because of their limited reactions and the fact that when the lady stabbed the other one, that it obviously did not bleed, but also it seemed to screw up its speech, but didn't affect its motorisms. So it's like they didn't really think that through. And I got to kind of agree with Bill on the whole, this lady was supposed to be very educated, very smart, yet, yeah, she drove the car very recklessly, which I think a conscious person wouldn't be running by a bus that was stopped, knowing there was kids coming out of it. So that seemed a little off to me as well. That really did bother me when I was watching that as well. It just seemed like, yeah, it just, for, somebody that was educated, I don't think she would have reacted the way she did. I think she would have maybe tried to get outside police or something more involved if she really thought this was going on. So that was a little odd to me. To me, it seems like the movie was really more about a political/social statement. It was really trying to be made, more than it was really a sci-fi kind of movie. I mean, like I think Tom had mentioned about the commercialism at that time. It seems like, yeah, they made that very front and center, making fun of that to the point of insinuating that, yeah, that's something in society that probably needed to change. And then also, too, was insinuating that, and I'm sure there were people in that time frame that still believed that their wives should just be taking care of the homestead and not having a career. Even though personally I don't believe that, and I don't think modern people do anymore, hopefully. So to me it seemed like it was more along those lines, more political and social statement than it really was a horror film or sci-fi. Yeah, I just think parts of it weren't written very well, to be quite honest. There were just parts of it didn't flow well, and just the whole sci-fi thing just wasn't very well done. Anyway, that's all. Back to Net Control. This is KB9SOK.
KB9SOK, this is K5ANE Net Control of the Afterglow Movie Net. And yeah, I definitely agree with you that it's only on the very surface level that it's any bit of like this sci-fi thriller, quasi-horror kind of story, and that part of it definitely is the weaker side of it. And yeah, it's really more of the storytelling of politics and society and critique on society. That's the real meat of what it's really trying to say on that. And those are always kinds of topics that you need to think about a little bit to really even get to it. And of course, these aren't like super deep. They're quite obvious in what they're trying to say and trying to talk about, chauvinistic society and consumerism and those kinds of ideas. So yeah, let's continue on. November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony. What do you think of the plot?
Oh boy, lots. I know that this is a movie net, and we're not mainly talking about books, but the Ira Levin novels for the Stepford Wives and Rosemary's Baby are very short and very much worth reading. Aaron pointed out that watching this, he has a kind of common theme that is separate from politics in the plots of both these novels, that even very early in the story, it is clear that the husband has betrayed his wife. He comes home in the movie, he's upset about something, he can't come to bed. He has already decided that the worst will happen, and all of the rest of his subsequent actions are just covering it up, hemming and hawing, but he has already betrayed his wife, just as in Rosemary's Baby. Both these movie adaptations are very faithful, if not in details, to the spirit of the original plots, and that is really refreshing. We see a lot of movies that are, sometimes very good abridgments, sometimes very bad abridgments, but that really take a wide departure from the original story, and this movie is not like that, and neither is Rosemary's Baby. They have a lot in common, really. Chairman points out that Ira Levin is almost a screenwriter in his novels. The plots are very tight. He doesn't wander around for hundreds of pages as George R. R. Martin, perhaps, to mention only one name. He focuses on the key points. He makes you feel a sense of dread, and he keeps things moving, and he keeps things building. And so you really can't cut much. And so that's what makes part of these plots, really, a key part of what makes both of the plots for Rosemary's Baby and the Stepford Wives very adaptable to film, because movies are short. You can spend a week reading a book, but you can't spend a week watching a movie. So that emphasis on keeping a tight focus is very important and helps them be very faithfully adapted, I think. There's also, the plot is strangely very philosophical. If anyone ever made you read anything about Hegel at some point in your life, as unfortunately happened to me, you learned about the dialectic and the thesis and the antithesis, that anything that happens, like let's say I believe in the divine right of kings, almost automatically creates its own opposition. No, I want a republic. I think the divine right of kings is silly. And the Stepford Wives is really that concept taken to an extreme. It's a film realization of philosophy. Because, yes, we had women's liberation. I am a human being. I'm a woman. I can have a job and buy a car of my own. My mom once told me how shocked she was to buy a car. Her father had to sign a permission slip for her to buy a car. So this was actually a real controversial thing back then, that a woman could, like, do things and have a job without someone's written permission. Always, of course, a man's written permission, kind of like Saudi Arabia. So you have this thesis, women are human, and then, of course, in classic Hegelian terms, it produced an antithesis or antithesis, women are not human. And what did that, how was that borne out in its most logical extreme? Women are just robots built by a Disney animatronic expert. So we have this wonderful tightness of an Ira Levin plot. He's a really good writer of short novels. And then we have this deep philosophical Hegelian, let's watch the human versus inhuman thesis and antithesis play out. And it really makes for a really deep plot that is very exciting to watch. NT5TM.
NT5TM, this is K5A&E, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And yeah, I definitely agree with you on all points on your analysis of the plot and its relationship to philosophy and the philosophical statements it's going to take. And I got to say that it's interesting. I didn't realize that this was by the same author that wrote the novel for Rosemary's Baby. That's good trivia to have. And once again, that's also a great movie. I haven't read either of these books. I imagine they're probably at least as good as the movies, if not better. Highly recommend the Rosemary's Baby movie as well, and probably also these books. They seem to be pretty good stories. Let's go ahead and have another round of check-ins. Once again, this is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. If you'd like to check in and talk about the Stepford Wives, specifically the 1975 version, come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie.
Comment?
Go ahead with the comment.
You also have Billy, Miss Billy, KF5PDS. She's over on Echolink. Don't forget her.
Oh, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, sorry, KF5PDS, Billy. Sorry about that. What'd you think of the plot?
Great. Thanks, Tom, and thanks, Kane. Yeah, I thought the plot, at the beginning was very, very slow. I agree with the comment earlier. I did kind of start to lose a little bit of interest, but, I pushed past that. And I thought the psychiatrist part of the plot was very weirdly paced, but I think that was to illustrate that her, interaction with the quote-unquote normal world was becoming more and more erratic, and but I agree with what Bill and others had said about her erratic behavior and the way she drove and all that. I thought that was too overstated. A woman of her, education and background wouldn't, go off the deep end like that. But I thought it was very deliberately paced. Had good build-up to the suspenseful, conclusion. I liked it was kind of creepy because it was very daylight horror kind of feel to it. Everything was just too clean and too pristine and very bright and colorful setting, and it just highlighted the creepiness of what was going on in the town. So to me, that made it kind of more of a chiller more than a thriller, because it was just a very chilling aspect. And especially at the end, seeing the wives walk around the supermarket in this kind of dream state, it was just very creepy. I agree with the comment earlier about the socio-political type comments. A lot of the early 70s sci-fi movies did that, like Soylent Green and Silent Running, made very socioeconomic, environmental kind of cautionary comments as to, if we don't heed the warnings, this is the way our society could go. And so this one does that to great effect with, as someone mentioned, ERA was really in high gear. And, sci-fi has always been a great way to talk about issues of the day without really, stating them directly. So it was a great way to, bring out these hot-button issues and get people talking about them. It was meant to make you uncomfortable, meant to be disturbing, and get people talking about things. So I think a lot of those movies back in the early 70s and even 60s, Star Trek did it to great effect in the original series. It was meant to make people uneasy about these type of issues. And then they even said, why did they do it? Because they could. So it was kind of a power thing, which kind of delves more into characterization, so I won't go there just yet. But, I thought the plot was very deliberately done and was meant to be uncomfortable. So it did its job. As Brenda said, it set out was on a mission to complete, and it delivers. So I enjoyed the film. I saw the later one with Nicole Kidman, and to me that was just too campy, almost like a comedy, like they were doing a comic spend-up of this film. This one had great chill and creepy effect, and so I enjoyed this more than the more recent remake. So with that, I'll return it to you, KF5 PDS, back to net.
KF5 PDS, this is K5A&E Net Control in the Afterglow Movie Net. And yes, I definitely agree with you on your comparison on the newer movie and this older movie as far as the way they feel. The newer movie does kind of have that comedic feel to it, and I don't know if it's just the newer animation style and things like that they kind of add to that kind of makes it feel a bit more campy or something. It just, especially the ending, it almost kind of seems like a joke, whereas the ending on this definitely is a bit more depressing and just kind of filled with despair, and it wasn't a nice happy ending in the end. Well, I guess unless you're a chauvinist, then I guess it's like, hey, yeah, that husband finally got what he was looking for. But yeah, for most people, I'd say probably not a very happy ending. Let's continue on with check-ins this time. I think I've got everybody here. Come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie.
This is Kilo Gold 5, Papa Mike November, James from Oklahoma. I saw the movie.
All right, I heard KG5 PMN, James from Oklahoma, who saw the movie. If there's anybody else that would like to check in, Come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie. I guess I should also expressly mention and shout out to anybody on Echolink to make sure that they have, a good chance to really come in. If you're on Echolink and would like to check in, Echolink only, come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie. All right, nothing heard. Well, I feel like I've already given, sorry. I guess I can't continue on. I still have to take KG5 PMN. And James, what did you think of the plot?
This is KG5 PMN. The plot took a long time to get going, and actually for me to get it figured out, because I had never seen any of the Stepford Wives series, or series if there was a series, or anything with them. Took me a long time to figure it out, but the first thing that kind of looked like, there's going to be trouble, is when her two kids get on the school bus and everybody's just kind of sitting there. And if I remember correctly, just kind of staring straight ahead and not really paying attention to the new kids and how they were differently dressed. And then everybody, when she first gets there, everybody's kind of friendly with her, and then one by one they start dropping out and going into the robotic state apparently. And it was really kind of strange when she stabbed the one lady, and the one evidently disrupted some circuits in her. Whatever happened to her, she didn't bleed, but she started just making back and forth motions without actually going anywhere, and then ultimately ending up with her turning into just like everybody else. Back to the net, KG5 PMN.
KG5 PMN, this is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And thanks for checking in and sharing your opinion on the plot. Let's continue on to the next round, where we're going to talk about characterization. And I'll probably continue to just kind of pick some random names. KE5ICX, Tom in Louisville. What do you think of the characterization?
Oh man, I was hoping you would pick somebody else first, and then I could glob onto their conversations. But I guess one of the things I thought was interesting was the husband, and the fact that he was kind of going in with the men's club thing, and it was so easy to do that and kind of fall into line. And the fact that the guys were going out and meeting every week, every day, I think, not every week, but every day. And whatever was going on behind closed doors, nobody knew. Then they started figuring it out. It was kind of weird, and there was a flattering of the main character's wife. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, but it was awkward. It is designed to be awkward, and I'm not sure. I saw this one. Maybe this is under characters under the plot, but one of the things that was going on is that are these guys cheating on their wives? Well, yeah, they got robots now. That's the thing. It was kind of weirdish in that way, and there was a feeling for that. And I think Ira 11 did that deliberately in this to suggest that something nefarious was going on, of course. But what does it really mean with these guys? What are their motivations? Most of the characters were very two-dimensional, one-dimensional. The artist came out and he did these beautiful sketches, and that was meant to, to call some sort of favor, and that seemed to work, but only for a short time. So what happens in this transformational part is what do the guys want? The gals don't get any say in the matter. They get somehow disposed of, we don't know how, which is an equally weird thing. Where did the women go after they were replaced by robots at the very end? What are the guys getting out of it? I think Tony mentioned this. Somebody mentioned it earlier. What happens to the women and how and why do they feel that way? Wouldn't it be more interesting to have somebody with a personality? And that's the part we don't always see. We see the part where with the wife, but not what was going on secretly. The closest we got is the secret billiards room, the man cave, as we call it today. And that's very superficial. That means nothing in the end. So, Ira Levin, to me, is one of those guys who could spin a yarn and could tell you something but not tell you everything. And I'll tell you this, I did Death Trap. I was in Death Trap in a community theater thing. And it's not to pivot or anything like that, but the thing about it is it's deeper than you think. The story is deeper than you think, and I think that Levin produced that in this by leaving enough mysteries involved that you're not sure. What are the characters' true motivations? Well, if you're watching it as a show, you're thinking, well, you know what, I'm not sure exactly what their motivations are. It's insidious. There's no doubt about it. It's insidious, and we don't know why. And that's what keeps you thinking. So it's kind of a hall of mirrors, I guess, to a certain extent. I wanted to know more. I didn't get it. I'm angry about that. And the characters maybe could have been a little deeper or not. I'm not sure. Mirrors, mirrors, mirrors. KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, this is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Yeah, thanks for that. That's quite a lot to think about there as far as the characterization. And yeah, I definitely agree with you. There's a decent bit beneath the surface of this, and that's definitely where the meat of this story lies. Yeah, let's continue on. KB9SOK, Sean, what did you think of the characterization?
Well, I think Tom said it pretty well there, actually, but I think the actors did what they were asked. I think it was well acted. And the comment earlier about the books, I'm sure the books probably are way superior just because it's hard to, outdo the human mind when you're reading something because you can fill in so much of this. And I have a feeling, and the reason I mention that here is because I think it's probably the same with the characters. If you were reading this, you would probably fill in a lot of the blanks in the back of your mind as you're going through this, and you'd probably be making up your own motivations why they were doing what they're doing. Because, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense that every man would be so willing to just go along with this, because, yeah, essentially, you're assuming that they're murdering their wives at the end of this and replacing them with robots, and if you love somebody, you would never even remotely consider doing something like that. or if he didn't love somebody, I wouldn't think that anybody would be willing to do that. So it is kind of weird that the men are so easily manipulated. It might have been more fascinating had the characters had been shown that, some way they were being hypnotized or something into thinking that this is the way to go and that they should do this. Because, as far as that goes, that part didn't make a lot of sense, why they were so willing. I thought the same thing. But, as far as, the characters were, I think for the most part, you really didn't know a lot about them, especially outside the main two characters, the main lady and then her husband. You got to learn a little bit about their life, and you knew something about them. That's really about it. It was a little bit shallow in that area. But anyway, back to Net Control. This is KB9 SOK.
KB9 SOK, this is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And, gotta agree with you as well with a lot of your points on characterization. Let's continue on, and we'll ask KF5PDS. Billy, you seem pretty eager to talk about characterization. Let's talk characterization.
Great, yeah. I thought it was very interesting at the beginning of the film when before they left New York, and Catherine Ross's character sees the man carrying the blow-up doll across the street, and she's taking pictures. I guess some last, record of, the weirdness in New York before they move out to the burbs. But I thought that was interesting kind of commentary and foreshadowing of what was to come. Because it seems like these were just men that if they didn't have their money, that they had to do all these elaborate creation of these, electronic women, that they would be like that guy crossing the street. So I thought that was interesting. It was like an upgrade of that kind of shallowness. And then it's kind of, to me, I was just thinking at the end, it's like, how far is this going to go? They're doing this, and yet the women are, perfectly functioning. They have the issues, but it's like proof of concept. It's like, okay, they've proved they can do this. Now how far can it go? What would Wife 2.0 look like, and how they could refine it, and is it going to stay in Stepford, or are they going to look to spread this to other cities? So then it starts to get kind of sinister when your mind, as the gentleman earlier said, when you start to fill in the blanks and think about, where this could go. This could be just the start of something very sinister. And the man, he had said, they said, why did we do it? Because we can. So it was like, to me, that was like the commentary on the inequality between the genders, that there's, something, these men were in their way power hungry, and this was another way that they could exert their power. So I thought that was really kind of sinister. But the fact that they would just want a wife that would operate this way, it's like, why would you want that? That's a very shallow and empty existence. And it makes you think about the kids. It's like, how would the kids react to this? It seems a very selfish endeavor because, they're only thinking of their own needs and to satisfy just basic urges. But it's like, well, how are the kids going to react to this? They lose that connection to their mother, and they're not going to connect in the same way, and that's going to harm their development. And what about the young daughters? Are they going to Stepfordize them at some point? It's like, okay, we can do this with adults. Can we do it with children? And that makes it even more creepy. So I just thought that the characterization on the whole, yes, was very superficially done, but I think that was to great effect to get you to thinking about what could come next. And that, to me, is always a sign of a good sci-fi movie, is one that leaves you asking questions and talking about it and talking about the issues long after you've seen the film. So I've not ever read the books, but Tony's comments make me curious to read those because I do, like the Rosemary's Baby movie, that's very, very thrilling, very chilling horror. And this was chilling in its own way. This was more of a cold, it was, just very, to me it was just like ice cold in the chill factor of just how creepy it could be. And yes, and I picked up on the sadness that you mentioned earlier too. It is very sad, depressing state of affairs and just very empty, the way it plays out. So I thought the characters, it just leaves more room for the imagination and speculation of where all this could go. So I guess with that, I'll leave it to someone else for their turn. So I'll return it to you. This is KFI PDS, back to net.
KFI PDS, this is K5ANE net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And yeah, thanks for that analysis on the characterization. We'll continue on. N5BB, what do you think of the characterization?
Very good, Kane. This is N5BB. Oh, I've got a number of things written down here. First, Tom had made a statement about the guy that was doing the sketches. What was very obvious to me was he was doing sketches, I believe, multiple of them, mainly in order to develop the robot. He was one of those Disney people, I believe. So, yes, she got a copy of one of those sketches, but he had others he took there. And so I believe that was part of what made it spooky. When Paula Prentice, or Tina Louise, I think, that was Charmaine Wimpress, after she had been turned into a robot and Joanna visited her house, that her drawing was on display there where you could see it. So it's nearly like once they had turned into robots, this drawing that had been made of their previous human selves was posted there. It was kind of the drawing was the ideal, okay? And it was so that was a very interesting little subtle thing that was done in there when they filmed that I thought was, to me, it added a lot to it. Okay. Some other comments. As far as the characters, to me, the station wagon was nearly a character. If you think about it, did you really see people getting around any other way other than the station wagon? Well, the kids got in the school bus. But the station wagon was this major character in it, if you think about it. And at a couple of key scenes in the movie, Joanna was driving past these two high-tech and defense establishments, these companies that were there. And it was kind of the assumption that a lot of the men worked at those companies. And you might imagine that maybe the robots were built in those companies. Maybe. But, and she drove by in that car. That car was the thing that she used, that she tore through places and hit other things and drove recklessly. It was kind of an extension of her. And that station wagon was it was back then what an SUV is now. It allowed families to get all the family members in there with all their stuff, and they could go on a vacation, or they could move stuff. It was kind of an extension of their family. They could it was like a moving household. And they moved from the city out to the suburbs in the station wagon. So anyway, I thought the station wagon was a character. I think a big part of it was suburbia. This is back in the middle 70s, and there was a really big move out to suburbia. Did you notice that at one point somebody commented that a black family was moving into the community? And at the end of the movie, you saw them in the grocery store, and I'm trying to remember. I don't think it looked like you saw the couple in the grocery store, and I don't think it looked like they had been turned into robots. She'd been turned into a robot yet. But there was this whole issue with integration and people moving out to the suburbs, and you notice they moved to a mansion kind of place, kind of a dream place. And so there was a conflict in young, well, moderate age people then. Catherine Ross was 35 years old when this was filmed. So, still young women. There was this conflict between, trying to go through the what today would be called the soccer mom thing, the station wagon, taking the kids to things and making sure they deal with all the socialized correctly and go to the clubs, and she was trying to start her own little club. There was a conflict between those things and, trying to maintain the household and do all those kind of stuff and trying to hold a job. And so this kind of brought out that conflict between the stay-at-home woman, the working woman, and all that was all kind of brought to a head there in Joanna. Another thing I think that's probably a point which is simmering under the surface is sexual liberation and the introduction, the widespread introduction of birth control back in the 70s. So one key scene in this, what I thought it was a really key scene, is that Joanna and Bobby were just barging into a house. They didn't bother to knock. The door wasn't locked. And they went in, and the man and his wife were upstairs, obviously having a sexual encounter. And there are several things I thought interesting about that scene. You could hear it, what was going on very well. And so it was obvious that these robotic women were sexualized. I mean, as far as the men were concerned, they were performing the function, making them happy. And the other thing that that really interested me much more about the way the thing was filmed is that Joanna and Bobby just stopped there and listened. Did they walk right out the moment they heard him upstairs? No. They were voyeurs. They listened there, and they kind of looked at each other and tried to figure out what to do before they finally left. And that scene was long enough that I think that was filmed that way on purpose. They wanted us to really understand that, what was happening there. So I think the whole sexual thing was a major part of the film. I think one other thing you can imagine, as far as the characterization and the plot and everything, is this had to do with people and society changing due to themselves and society. Joanna wanted to get out of the city, and then once they got out there, and her husband, and then once they got out there, she wanted to move somewhere else. So it's wanting to change yourself, but other society changing you also. So the robots were the obvious major manifestation of that. You know, talk about a change. You were replaced by a robot. But this had to do with self-realization. And I think some books were mentioned. I can't remember what they were about things like that during their little encounter group that they tried to start. So anyway, I think there are a lot of very interesting things in this movie. N5BB, thanks for letting me talk so long.
N5BB, this is K5A&E, Net Control, the Afterglow Movie Net. And we'll continue on here and take somebody else. KG5BZWJ, what do you think of the characterization?
KG5BZW. Well, I don't know what to say after all that. Characters, well, I mean, it's, I feel like I want to go on a tangent. Just, it's like if we're going to have the wagon as the character, well, okay, we've got the whole first scene with the blow-up doll, which is kind of the whole summary of the film. Anyway. That was the whole metaphor for the whole, all the robots and everything that was to be found out later. Besides the implausibility of the whole plot, the characters, the reason that the implausibility, it's one of those things, like, I don't want to investigate the characters too much in terms of what the characters actually do, because I think the whole point of the film really is the questions that it brings up. So, how the characters interact and how on a whole grand scheme of things, it just doesn't exactly seem to work. It's not that. It's the questions that have already been brought up. A lot of questions have been brought up, and I can't even remember all of them, and I'm not going to repeat them. So it's like, I almost feel like focusing on the characters is kind of counterproductive, except in how specifically, for certain questions it's fine. You know, the main character, how she evolves in her thought process as to what's going on and everything, and seeing all of these other characters be switched with the robots and all that. So really, I guess, in terms of character development, I really only see Mrs. Everhart, whatever her name is, really being developed. The men are, there's obviously a bit of they're one-dimensional and all that, because of the reasons I've already mentioned. It's not. They are there to bring those questions forward, not that they are there to really develop the character, because it's not the character, it's the questions. So I don't know, I think that's about it for what I got to say now. People said a lot of good stuff, and I can't beat them. So, KG5BGW, back to that.
KG5BZW, this is K5ANE, net control of the Afterglow Movie Net here on W5FC. Let's continue on, continuing to talk about characterization, and we'll hop on over to NT5TM. Tony, what'd you think of the characterization?
Well, most of the credit this round goes to Aaron. We did hear another station comment about how when the kids of the protagonists get on the bus, they're struck by the fact that, you know, the kids are wearing their own clothes, but the kids on the bus all look alike, and they're silently sitting in their assigned seats. And Aaron pointed out that it's actually worse than that. The men immediately move into town, and they join the men's association, and they have no character depth, and they're just sort of performing their functions to help construct the sex robots. But generally speaking, they're just not interesting at all. They don't seem to have a life. They may have technically different careers, but we never see them really doing anything except occasionally staring at papers. The men are already robots. The kids are already robots. So the interesting thing about characters in this movie is that we see them extinguished one by one. Though the men aren't interesting, the kids aren't mostly interesting. The women are being eaten one by one and turned into the robots. And yes, they're becoming actual mechanical robots. I guess they're being killed and their bodies tossed somewhere. That's kind of implied in the books. Yeah, that's not really shown, but still, everyone else is a robot. Why should the women get to have lives? They should turn into robots too. So, characters in this movie really aren't terribly interesting or independent. They're a tool of the plot. Character development is entirely subordinate to the dread we feel as character is muted and crushed and subordinated and molded and ultimately made irrelevant. And Aaron points out that the tragedy, that the fright we see is that the women do start off, unlike the men, as individuals. They have careers, they have dreams, they have artistic endeavors, they play sports, they do things, they want to be somebody, whereas the men just want to do paperwork and hold still. So really, the whole course of character of this movie is to serve the plot. It's to make us feel dread. It's to really just scare us. NT5TM.
NT5TM, this is K5ANE, net control, the Afterglow Movie Net here on W5FC. And I gotta say, that really lit something under me, talking about this idea that the husband was already a robot. And I was suddenly reminded of that early conversation/argument in the kitchen, where, you know, the wife replies back, "You're just repeating the same questions back at me." You know, that whole conversation, it seemed like, you know, the husband was having a hard time, you know, having any real emotions or any real original thoughts on his own, and, you know, it didn't really seem like he had very strong opinions on the men's club either way, except for, you know, when he had to be, you know, all politically correct, you know, oh, they don't allow women in the men's club. Go figure, right? Yeah. Anyways, continuing on, let's grab another name out of the hat here. WB5OZL, Brenda, what'd you think of the characterizations?
This is WB5OZL. Well, I lived through the 70s as an adult, and in 1974, I wanted to be an astronaut, you know, fat chance. Women couldn't realize their dreams and hopes like men could in the 70s. It was still kind of archaic. It was starting to change. Throughout the whole decade, our country fought over the Equal Rights Amendment. It finally just fizzled and died. You know, in this movie they talk about burning bras. People did that. They got together, a big group, and they threw their bras into a fire, And it was a symbolic liberation of we're not going to be bound up anymore. And it was, you know, we had just recently invented the birth control pill, and before that, women were consigned, if you got married, consigned to a life of housekeeping and having babies, and you just did not have choices unless you chose not to marry or for some reason couldn't have children. Then you could pursue some kind of career, although it was often frowned upon, and in many cases not even allowed. You couldn't be an airline pilot. So many things you just couldn't do. It just, you know, the door was shut. So, you know, back in the day, and book was written just a couple of years before the movie. But back in the day, this really struck a nerve for me, is, you know, how women weren't free to pursue their own hopes and dreams, and that kind of amplifies the frightening nature of it. To me, this is metaphorically almost Kafkaesque, a sense of dread in the context of, you know, pretty clothes and pretty hair and coffee and cakes and, you know, beautiful people and parties, and this veneer of prettiness and niceness, but underneath it, this real ugliness of they're taking over these people's bodies and denying them the opportunity to be people. And, you know, it's just extremely frightening. Rosemary's Baby scared the dickens out of me when I saw it. I didn't realize it was the same author. But he's really good at this, at that sense of dread or the feeling that something really bad is going to happen. And it does. And yet people continue to carry on as if everything's fine. All right. Oh, one thing I was thinking about. I've always loved to cook and started collecting recipes as a teenager. And there were so many magazines that had articles that said, man-pleasing recipes. And even then I thought, yeah, right. Just, you know, it was all about women serving men, getting their slippers and pipes. And men, a lot of men just didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with this. Women generally did. They might not have said anything, but they pretty much did see that this was not okay. Back to net, WB50ZL.
WB50ZL, this is K5A&E, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And yeah, that was actually something my wife had mentioned, was the whole idea of these characters, and whenever they changed, suddenly they were wearing bras, whereas previously, as the free-thinking women that they were not wearing bras. And it was like a very obvious thing in this movie. You know, they even the friend even like mentions how wonderful this new bra her husband got her, that, you know, she was surprised about how comfortable this thing could be, and look what it does. It's amazing, isn't it? And so, yeah, kind of a interesting topic. And then the other idea that I thought was kind of strange, and my wife had kind of mentioned it, is that if you think about this too hard, and this idea of birth control, women's liberalization, well, if they're robots, they can't reproduce. So in a way, isn't that like the ultimate form of birth control, being converted into a robot? But then, women's liberalization, or no, using the wrong term here. Anyways, you know what I'm saying. You know, it's the birth control was the thing that was freeing, but in this society, it's this forced imposition of this birth control is what's, you know, is affect the slavery. I don't think that it's necessarily what the author's going for in this. I think it's kind of a, you know, don't think too hard on that topic. But yeah, continuing on, characterization, NG5Y, what do you think of the characterizations? NG5Y still out there? If so, what do you think of the characterization? NG5Y, this is K5A&E, Net Control, the Afterglow Movie Net. We'll swing around back to you just here in a second. We'll go ahead and reach out to KG5 at PMN. James, what do you think of the characterization?
This is KG5PMN. Characterization, well, she kept the character up pretty much all the way to the end, but I kind of disagree a little bit with what the guys were doing. Most of the guys, I guess, were already kind of robotic when he got her, but man, it seems like he started out fairly normal, and then about the time she got here driving erratically in the car and winds up and backs over the mailbox and drives up and goes running into the house, he starts changing. To me, he started changing, his personality started changing at that time. And then he seemed to become more belligerent, almost to the point of being more violent with her. And kind of wondered about the hypnosis thing when she walked into that, whatever it was, the men's club, and then walks in and sees her bedroom reproduced in it after those guys went through the house and looked at their bedroom and couldn't figure that out initially, why they were looking at the bedroom like they did, but and as her character, I was wondering if they may have started to try to change her, and I almost got the feeling that she'd gotten drugged there right as she was driving that car erratically. Back to the net, KG5PMN.
KG5PMN, this is K5A&E, Net Control, the Afterglow Movie Net. And yeah, I definitely got to agree with you that while though the husband was fairly robotic, and all the men were pretty robotic in many ways, and were rather flat characters, the husband does evolve a decent bit. You can see him drinking more and more, and yeah, he gets a little bit more unstable as I think he's trying to grapple with what he's going to eventually do. Anyways, we're almost at midnight, so I'd like to remind everybody that we're going to go back to the regular timeout timer and not the net timeout timer for anybody else that continues to transmit. Let's go ahead and try one more time. NG5Y, Alan and Garland. What do you think of the characterization? All right, nothing heard. Okay, so on to our final round, if we want to continue on, where we talk about special effects or cinematography or whatever else you feel like talking about. And I guess we'll go ahead and just start this one off the top here. N5BB, what else do you think about this movie?
Elvis has left the building.
Thank you, King. This is N5BB. Well, the comment that was just made about the bedroom scene reminded me that I was also confused by that scene. So Joanne left the house kind of in a rage. Her husband then immediately calls these other guys. They all come over, and they seem to go in the bedroom and kind of look around and then carefully kind of wipe the bed, like they wanted to make sure it didn't look like they were sitting on the bed, and then leave. And what I'm getting, I don't know if I missed something there, but what I'm tell me if I'm wrong here. Were they installing surveillance equipment in the bedroom so they could record the private doings, so that once she was made into a robot, they could program the robot to act similarly? that's the only thing I can imagine they were doing in the bedroom. I wonder if anybody else has any ideas about that, because when I first saw that scene, it really confused me. Is why were they there, and all they seem to do is look around in the bedroom? That's all I got. N5BB.
N5BB, this is K5A&E Net Control in the Afterglow Movie Net. And, yeah, I definitely have to agree with you that, to a certain extent, the sexualization of the robots was definitely one of the main things going on there. And I would guess that that's probably the reason why they were analyzing the rooms. And I wanted to also throw out as somewhat of a characterization thing, I guess. If you noticed, the real human wives, we never really see them being sexual towards their husbands, but we see that, many times with the robots, as far as, being approached by the husbands and, returning affection and things like that, as much as a robot can. And so I do agree that I think there probably is a good bit of that was probably the reason why they bothered to actually make the bedroom the same and do all that kind of stuff. Let's continue on. Actually, let's do one more thing here. Let's take a quick thing for check-ins. If anybody else would like to check in to the Afterglow Movie Net, real quick, we're on our last round here, but go ahead and come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie. All right, nothing heard. We'll continue on here. KE5ICX, Tom, any other things you'd like to share about the movie?
Probably just to reiterate, I thought that the most interesting thing about the film was the kind of commercialism that it created, that women were supposed to go and take care of the men. There was even product placement in the thing that I thought was interesting. Trying to, it's what you do type of thing. In 1975, that was a big deal. And I could see how there was blowback from that because of the way it was handled. Levin did a very good job with making this whole overt, perverted thing happen. And to be honest with you, there are some aspects of that that still go on today. So I think it has a real assertive premise that still exists today. So I thought that the film, as was mentioned earlier, let me reset. Good science fiction or any good story always has you thinking, and this one had me thinking afterwards, which is unusual for me, but thinking is important. I thought that this film overall has more to it than you might think, and I think that's proved by our conversation here. So I enjoyed it. I don't know what the 2007, I think it was, movie that came out did. Probably trivialized it, but R11, hey, I lived through his stuff. I'll tell you a story about that sometime, doing community theater. But he was a profound writer, and he had the pulse of what was going on at the time. Okay, I'm done. Back to net control, KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, this is K5ANE net control for the Afterglow Movie Net here on W5SC. Let's continue on. November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony, any other thoughts or comments about this movie?
Yes, I long for the day when Erin can get on the radio for herself and there will be no loss in translation, because when we have a good movie like this, she and I really get going, and we love talking about these, the good movies. And this was a great pairing, by the way, with the Donald Sutherland 1979 Body Snatchers. It's just another variation of the same theme of human replacement. It's a wonderful thing for us to talk about both movies. There are 3 Ira 11 books that are really good. Rosemary's Baby, The Stepford Wives, and This Perfect Day. 2 of the 3 have been made into fairly faithful adaptations. I don't think there's been a movie of This Perfect Day, but... say that again? The Kiss Before Dying is supposed to be really good. A Kiss Before Dying instead of one of his books? Oh, okay. So, yeah, apparently Ira 11 just really lends himself to really interesting movies. So that's cool. I've just really enjoyed hearing everyone's comments. NT5TM.
NT5TM, this is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. We'd love to have more people join the net and hop on the radio. And don't forget, other people can transmit onto your call sign when you're right there to pull the microphone away just in time. Let's continue on. WB5, OZL, Brenda, any other notes for this movie?
This is WB5OZL. Well, I did wonder how a robot could drink alcohol and get drunk. I didn't understand that part. And they weren't clear about whether they ate. And so there were a lot of details like that they just sloughed over, I guess, because I guess it just gets too hard when you start trying to make things make sense. In terms of special effects, weren't much, but didn't need it. This is the kind of thriller that scares you just with the story and the pacing. And it didn't need to be a slasher movie or a lot of special effects. The story carried itself pretty well. That's all I got. WB5OZL.
I think, maybe it wasn't necessarily the alcohol that was messing with them, but more of just that to showcase that, while although they're robots and they, look perfect and things like that, they're still rather rough around the edges. And I don't know necessarily that whole scene was, they tried to explain it away as, that she just had too much alcohol and that's why she just kept repeating herself. But it could have been more of, I guess there's a bunch of them, but it probably wouldn't have been like overheating or something like that. But yeah, anyways, continuing on, KG5BZW, Jay, any other notes for this movie?
This is KG5BZW. Okay, cinematography. The last scene. Not the last scene. The last scene where Joanna is alive. Was it my imagination, or did they make her robot bustier? There was some good edits to make it look like it was her, and not quite sure if that was actually her. But anyway, that's almost, I don't know. Yeah, I get in trouble with that. Or I already have gotten in trouble. I don't know. Besides, I can't really think of special effects besides, I'm sure that just some common stuff that whatever was done didn't really seem to distract from the film. I would just say that. Music, nobody really talked about music. I should have. The music seemed to work. I just thought that. It was like, There's something to say about that. I have nothing to say at the moment, so. Yeah, I've got nothing else. K5A&E, this is KG5BZW, make the net.
KG5BZW, this is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Thanks for stopping by and thanks for checking in and sharing your ideas with the net. KB9SOK, Sean, any other notes for the movie?
Yeah, there was, as everybody said, one whole lot of special effects. I thought the music was adequate for the scenes. You definitely got what they were getting across there. Not really a whole lot to really add to it, other than it's always very interesting to hear everybody's comments, and it always somewhat changes my opinion of a movie and points things out that I didn't notice when I watched it the first time around. And many times I'm tempted to watch the movie again afterwards, just because you get kind of a different view of it. Overall, I still say I enjoyed the movie, but I am tempted now, to read the book because it sounds like it might be interesting. And yeah, I very much enjoy the comments that everybody makes because it does definitely make you see the movie in a different light. And I didn't see this movie as deep as it was until hearing everybody's comments and seeing that. It probably really was a much deeper movie than we initially realized. That's really all I got. Back to Net Control. This is KB9SOK.
KB9SOK, this is K5A&E, the Afterglow Movie Net. And yeah, I gotta say, it's one of the things I really love is being on nets like this and, talking with people about movies critically and, constructively. It helps even just bouncing ideas off each other on platforms like this, and hearing other people's ideas on things kind of sharpens your own skills at critically thinking about movies, and it's one of the reasons why I love this net and I love talking to everybody on here. Let's continue on. NG5Y, Alan, what do you think of the movie? Any other notes?
W5FC.
That's right, NG5Y. Might have stepped out there for a bit. We'll go ahead and shout it at him one more time after we complete this list. So if you're still there, NG5Y, and you're just not able to say something, you'll get one more chance here coming up. KF5PDS, Billy, any other notes on this movie?
Yeah, I agree with the music that it was good. There were two standouts for me was during the chase scene when Captain Ross was running through the Men's Association building. I thought the music was quite suspenseful and really lent to the moment of the panic that she was feeling. And then at the very end, I thought that the flute theme that they were playing as Catherine Ross was, her character, the robot, was approaching the screen to showcase her eyes. I thought that was a very plaintive and sad melody that was being played. It's like normally flute music means everything is tranquil and peaceful and calm and things have come to a resolution, but we know that things are tranquil and calm and peaceful, but they're removed from being all right, and being resolved, so there is no happy ending. So I thought that music to close the film out was very chilling. It was beautiful music. And then to comment on Jay's comment, I think all the Stepford Wives got physical upgrades according to whatever their husbands' tastes were. So she definitely received some augmentation, and they really showcased that. They made a point to really put a on it to make you notice that yes, this was not the actual wife. This was the upgrade. So I think that was very planned because it was all the wives seemed to be a little more curvaceous and if you looked at them prior to being changed, if you got to see them, then you knew that they were the the replacement wife. And I think it was alluded to that the new couple, yeah, you saw the new couple in the supermarket, so you knew it was only a matter of time before that woman would suffer the same fate as the others, so which makes it very sinister. So anyway, those are my comments. It was a great movie. I can't wait to hear what we're doing next. So I'll return it to you. This is KF5 PDS. Back to now.
KF5 PDS, this is K5 A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net here on W5SC. We've got at least one more person here, and then we'll finish up the net. But until then, KG5 PMN, James, any other comments or notes on the movie?
This is KG5 PMN. Thing I thought was kind of curious, in the opening, I guess the opening minutes, as soon as they got into the town, the bus appeared to have had maybe a 20-passenger bus, fairly full when the kids got on. Throughout the movie, her friend that kind of stayed the longest, it seemed like they were only mentioned, she had kids that were mentioned, but yet the bus was full in the beginning, or seemed to be full in the beginning. The other thing is, one other thing, or two other things actually, but I guess 2/3 of the way through the movie, they were talking about moving again. Was it just a temporary house, or what was the deal with the moving? And I don't know what that was. And then at the very end, you saw the dog in that replacement bedroom in the men's club, but you never actually found out what happened to their kids. I never found out what happened to their kids at the end. That was kind of looked like some points were not fully developed in there or something like that. Back to the net, KG5PMN.
KG5PMN, this is K5A&E Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And we'll go ahead and reach out one more last time. NG5Y. Alan, are you there? If so, any other notes, anything else to say? Alright, nothing hurt. I guess I'll go ahead and go and say my last few notes on this. Yeah, I always like talking about cinematography. I'm a bit of a photographer, hobbyist myself, and so watching movies is kind of an extension of that. You know, think about the framing and the colors and whatnot. I really did like the colors and the scenery of this movie. I thought it was interesting to see this 1975 suburbs. You know, usually when you're seeing these, like 1970s movies, oftentimes they're shot in the cities and whatnot, so you see a lot of cityscapes of the 70s, but it's rare to see this kind of rural suburbia kind of view in many movies, I should say. Definitely not all. You know, you've got things like Amityville Horror and whatnot, yeah. So I like the colors and I like the scenery and whatnot, but let me reset. In the end, I don't know. It's just some of the framing and just the style of the shots, I didn't really feel like there were a lot that, you could just take a scene and print it and it'd be a great picture. There's a lot of really close cropping, at least in the version that we had, and I don't know, it always kind of seemed a little bit off balance or something like that, almost like, whoever was shooting it had never heard of, like, the golden ratio or rule of thirds or any of this kind of stuff, and it's just, let's just take whatever we're trying to show and really blow it all up in the whole picture here. Got all this frame, let's go ahead and use it, right? Well, yeah, I don't know, it just always felt really crowded, I guess. Maybe that was intentional. We're talking about somewhat of a psychological horror thriller kind of thing going on here, but then again, even from the start, there were never really like wide shots or anything like that, so it was always kind of like that. You'd kind of expect for that tension to build and that kind of framing. But yeah, anyways, we're getting pretty late here, so let's continue on and yeah, finish up this net. So yeah, this is the Afterglow Movie Net. We meet here every Saturday night at 10:30, roughly, right after the Skynet here on W5SC repeater. So be sure to come by and check us out again. You can check us out on Facebook. That's Afterglow, one word, movie, and I think that's it on Facebook. Or if you don't use Facebook, I don't use too much Facebook myself, you can reach out to our dear leader, Tom, at ke5icx@yahoo.com for updates on what we're going to watch. Or you can just always catch and listen for the very end here, and Tom will announce it, and the next week's movie will be...
Are you asking?
Yes, I would love to know, Tom. This is K5A&E.
All right, thank you. Thank you for doing that this evening. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Next week's movie is The Dark Side of the Moon from 1990. Yes, in the near future, a maintenance vehicle is orbiting the Earth on a mission to repair nuclear-armed satellites. Of course, suddenly the crew experiences a mysterious power failure that cannot be accounted for. The ship grows colder, and they find themselves drifting towards the dark side of the moon. I didn't know there was one, but I guess there is. An old NASA shuttle, the Discovery, drifts toward them, although NASA has not been operating for 30 years. So that'll be next week's movie. And as you mentioned, send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, ke5icx@yahoo.com. Let me know if you're interested in being a part of the weekly movie stuff. Otherwise, go to YouTube, not YouTube, Facebook. Let me reset. Go to Facebook and go to Afterglow Movie, 2 words, as was mentioned earlier, and go there. All right, I've been up early. I've been working on stuff all day long. 7-3, and back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Tom, what was the name of that movie? This is Inside BB.
Bill, it's called The Dark Side of the Moon. It's from 1990. It went direct to video, so it's got to be good.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and say that's it tonight for the Afterglow Movie Net. This is your net control, K5ANE, and I'll see y'all next week.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Kane. Wow, we ran late. This movie was really pretty deep. See you next week in 5BB. Happy New Year.
Kane, thank you for doing a really great job on net control. It was really appreciated. I think you really brought out something on this film and kept going with it. You did a fantastic job. Thank you so much. KE5I6.
And I don't know if he's still here. I just wanted to disagree with somebody about this is not a movie with wide shots, but there are a lot of rule of third shots in this movie. NT5TM.
Really, I'm wondering if it was maybe just the version that we were in that stream that we had linked or something. I don't know. It felt really cropped to me. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I had too much to drink before I watched this.
Aha, he's still here. Well, I don't know. I have whatever copy was on my computer for whatever reason. I've burned so many copied so many DVDs. Ripped, that's the word for it. So I don't know where I got this from, but I mean, it is a movie almost free of wide shots. It really is. It's kind of like Das Boot, but in suburban homes. That is its style. But we have an awful lot of really kind of very 70s film school style shots. They were all kind of close-ups or mediums or even extreme close-ups. Well, not too many of those. Mostly just close-ups and two shots type of things. But yeah, I actually thought this felt very film schoolish. NT5TM.
Yeah, and I do have to agree with you that it is very 1970s, and did also seem very film schoolish. And that's kind of a part of what made me, I guess, not like it as much, is that it did kind of seem a bit more formulaic in all this. And of course, this is a personal drama kind of thing going on. It's a lot of back and forth between two characters, for almost all these kind of films. And there's, as you mentioned, it's a very suburban thing. But yeah, I don't know. The version I saw was 16:9 widescreen. I don't know what the original print was and how it's supposed to be. But yeah, that's who knows. I do find it funny though that the version that I watched, we talked about how this movie has this big theme of advertising and consumerism and whatnot, and the linked stream, which was the only available easily available stream online for this movie, was an entirely ad-supported video network. And so it's like we're watching this thing where all these ladies, the scene where all these ladies are just repeating ads, and like literally right after they're repeating ads for this cleaning product, I get an ad for Procter & Gamble junk. So it's like, what do you know?
Yeah, I'm going to have to relay that one to Aaron, because that shot, I didn't get interrupted by an ad, but that made me think of the Truman Show, where he goes, "Who are you even talking to?" Because she's like, "Oh, this is the most beautiful cheese grater I've ever seen. And I would just have to recommend this to all my friends and tell them to always buy the Acme brand cheese grater." I can't remember what the product even was. And he just looks at her with an intense side eye and is like, "Who are you talking to?" Because yes, that bit was exactly like that. Whenever time is your enemy, you always have to buy Easy On ironing starch. Because, okay, what planet are we even from? So yeah, Aaron and I are actually also simultaneously trying to pick out an order of carnivorous plants. So I will have to run away. But yes, that was kind of eerie and very future-oriented, because we see that in modern TV shows, we see that in modern movies. It has never died. NT5TM. It was a really fun net. I really like talking about these movies that make us think, that aren't just the creeping terror. NT5TM.
Absolutely. I'll catch you next week. NT5TM 73. This is K5ANE, and I'll probably be clear.
Ah, yes, The Creeping Terror, the worst movie ever made. All right, I'm going to adjourn to the recliner now. 7-3, everybody. I had a lot of fun, and Kane, thank you so much. You did an excellent job this evening with this movie. I think it's maybe one of the best. See you later. This is KE5I6. I'm clear.